What is up, ladies and gentlemen? This is D.H. Thorne here, coming at you live with my good friend, the Flesh Priest, who will be our operator and Grand Master of Ceremonies here tonight while we have our live stream. Introduce yourself, Mr. Priest of Flesh. What is up? Word. Oh, Desmond, you are still muted. Why are you muted? I see why you're muted. Ha ha! You're not muted anymore. That was my fault. I have control over that dial. You should now be audio full. So let's try this again, El the Alchemist Part 2.
I just love running my mouth and no sound comes out. Hello, everyone. It is our weekly live stream with call-in and answer time.
And if I don't bring this up right now, I'm going to forget about it. Next week, next Thursday, our call-in is not going to be on Halloween, but it's going to be the live stream just before Halloween. So here is my request I'm going to make to all of you in the audience. I want to hear your ookiest and spookiest of stories next week. If you got any type of weird story,
well, let me interrupt you. How do you feel about maybe doing a special Halloween presentation just about ghosts or something? Like make it nothing but ghost talk. Would you be? Well, then again, we might be doing that thing in Discord that night. So, maybe we'll announce this week what we're gonna do, because I think there was some talk about doing some kind of activity this coming Saturday, not the day after tomorrow, but a week from Saturday. So, I have a ritual to do that night. For those of you who are part of Shadowgate, you know what I'm talking about. I don't know. What do you think? Would you be down if we did it, or would you rather do something on Discord like we were originally planning?
I could go either way with that. Yeah.
All right. So we'll announce it. We'll announce it soon. How about that? And if you want, it'll be a fun Halloween episode. I know that EA Quetting and a whole bunch of the people are doing that event for the weekend. So I realize there might be some conflicts, so I'll talk to him and be like, what hours do you care about? Maybe we'll do like a midnight stream or something. I don't know if you can make that, but maybe we'll do like
if it's on a weekend, I might be able to, yeah.
Okay, maybe we'll do, so we'll see what's going on. Maybe we'll do like midnight on Halloween if I'm not in the middle of doing a ritual at that time. That might be cool. Or shit, if I could figure out how to do it, maybe I could live stream while I'm at the place and but the problem would be I'd probably need somebody here to manage all of, unless you want to do it. But then you'd need all the YouTube credentials. But we could potentially, I could stream live on location. That'd be kind of corny.
But, no, I think that would be cool if you could pull it off. I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, I think EA, but yeah, so I think EA is doing. It's actually an event though. They're streaming stuff, so I don't know. But I think it's a paid event, so I don't think it's going to be a big deal.
That's the Dark Arts Summit.
The Dark Arts Summit, that's right. And I joined their Discord group for that, and I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of that. And but you know, I don't know if I'll be involved in that or not. He invited me for next year probably when he does it. So we didn't become friends soon enough for it to really become something that I could be involved in. But next year, who knows? Maybe it has been mentioned. We'll talk about that at some point. But yeah. So anyway, guys, how are you? Who we got here tonight? We got 38 people watching, so we got a good start.
Oh yeah, everybody.
Yeah. We got Eddie Romanov. What's up, Eddie? Arachnos.
I know him from Discord.
I do. Regina Green.
Conjure Mama.
Not sure if I know Regina.
Oh, you go.
I'll do it. Do it! Jennifer Vatsa. Let's see. Yepson in blue. I hate that guy. GM Draco. Nina the Mystic, one of the coolest chicks that I know. She was one of the first to volunteer to be a moderator and has done an excellent job since day one. And she's always been very fantastic. And she's actually a very giving soul. If you follow her around, you'll see that she's part of a lot of different channels doing the same stuff, and she's got her own stuff, and I always like to give her a shout out because she deserves it. She's never asked for anything, even though I've offered many times. She has always just been, I just like to help, and so I like to promote her and say that she's a great person because she really is. Star Ruby Corsi, what's up? And General 7, General 7. Is that almost like what is it? What is that? The 7, the quartz mixed with all the different. What is that called? Ultimate 7 or something like that. That crystal you can buy. Camilla's random, the cooking expert, the random chica, who happens to also know where I sleep, apparently. Kind of creeps me out, to be brutally honest. But she's also in blue. The Hermit, I haven't seen you in a little bit, Hermit. What's up, Hermit? Zion Scriven, what's up? Let's see, who did I miss?
I see Jinny. How
Yeah,
do you
Jin.
pronounce
Say
that?
Jin. Just like pretend there's no D there and just go
No,
Jin.
no, it's Ginny.
Ginny. I don't know. I'll look at that when I get to it. I don't see him though. Maybe they have me blocked. Dark One is here. And Necro Nikki. What's up, Necro Nikki? Maybe she'll call in again tonight. Yeah, Jin. Yeah, Jin. It's supposed to be like Jin Genie, really. Zulak. What's up, Zulak? I know Zulak. Who else did we miss? Who did I miss? Super 7, my wife says. Super 7. General 7 says Super 7, but, no, but yes, why not? Let's just do that. So we're going to call him Super 7 from now on, General 7. Let's see, Martin LaRosa, what's up? La Sorsa. That's actually a tongue twister for some reason, maybe because I need more of my orange drink. Truth Addict, what's up, Truth Addict?
Welcome to my life every week on the show. Just how can I feel like a Starbucks barista. Just how can I butcher people's names the most today?
Right? But it's part of the fun, though, because then you get to act stupid and then you get to make fun of people's names. Norse 900,
yeah.
I don't know if he wants me to give him shout-outs why we know him, but he's freaking cool as hell. Norse 900, if you feel comfortable, feel free to call out why you're a cool guy in the comments there. Krasinski, I think we know who that is. We had fun with him on Saturday, right? Was it Saturday? Yeah, the game night. So,
yeah. Played some fucking Cards Against Humanity
yeah.
and some Among Us and other bullshit.
Yeah.
That was fucking fun, just seeing how fucking depraved everybody's sense of humor was.
Mm-hmm. We had a good time. I actually had a blast. I mean, I had to call it a little bit earlier than I originally wanted to, but dude, we've been that's the thing. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the busiest nights for me because I've somehow managed to stack social things every night between hanging out with EA and hanging out with you, and then hanging out on Saturdays and doing the live stream, and it's whew. Everyone's saying I'm a little quieter than you. I need to talk. She's saying I need to talk louder. I can't do that. We know I can't do that.
I like how it was just Jennifer saying that, but you said everyone. Jennifer,
True.
You are the everyone.
You are everyone. You are now everyone.
Eddie Romanoff, you're kind of sus.
Everyone's motherfucking sus, all right?
Gonna vote you all out tonight. Mark my words.
So I'm gonna lower you a little bit, brother, so that way they can equalize us out a little bit. So anybody who wants to give me sound check, we're just gonna sing me, fa 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 fa, fuck you, me, fuck you all. Not you though, you're cool.
Everyone here is cool. Everyone else can go fuck themselves.
Fuck yourselves. La 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 la. Oh. All right, my sound check engineer in the bedroom, in the living room, says that we're sounding good now. So, okay, cool. So, yeah, all right. So, before we really get into anything good, let's talk a little bit about our Discord server that is really freaking doing cool. Because we started it, and what do we have, 20 people? And I just looked, and I forgot the number because I'm, a little stupid like that.
I could check it right here. There's something like 4 plus 19 plus 32. Fast maths. That's like
a bunch.
That's like more than 20.
A metric bunch fuck. That's a lot. El the Alchemist, get into Discord. What are you doing? What's up, El the Alchemist?
Oh, is he?
Go to bed.
Hey, what up, El?
What's up, El, brother? We're gonna get you on again soon. So give us a shout when you get your hours that you can hang out, and we'll put you on.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, everybody's enjoying the Discord. There's a lot of conversations going on. We're going to be probably adding a few more channels. The problem with too many channels, though, is it can get confusing on which ones to use. So I don't want to add too many more. But we have channels for a lot of stuff, and it's about everything we talk about here. But we also just hang out and play games and just have fun. It's just a great little community we're brewing there. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's basically just like the live stream, except just everyone in chat is running the show, and we're just here oh, hey, we're the guests now.
No, for real. I talk there, but I'm kind of I'm a lurker in my own fucking Discord channel, right? And you've taken that over. You're the grand high exalted, metric fuckton poobah that like weighs in on everything. It's great to watch, man. You're doing a great job of moderating that and keeping it going. And you added a bot.
That. I added a bot. It took me all of like 2 minutes to go.
I was going to say, what was it, about a minute and a half? No, come on, dude, give yourself some credit.
I am just gathering bodies for the great flesh god. You all will be wrapped up into a sinewy embrace, held strong by ground bone, built up into the great colossus.
The festering colossus.
Join the Discord to become a part of that.
Yeah. So for real though, like we do try to do things and events, and people hang out, and we play Cards Against Humanity. We've actually been playing. We had a great time. I don't know whether I enjoyed the cards game better or when we played Among Us better. I'm not sure which one of those two was more fun. This Saturday, day after tomorrow, I'm tentatively planning on doing Phasmophobia, and that's a 4-player game. So if we get a lot of people, we might have to split up into different Ghost Hunter teams, and everybody will mix and match Ghost Hunter teams from time to time to make it fun. But you can play maybe with Flesh. I don't know if he'll be playing. I'll probably be playing. You get to hear me squeak like a little girl when the ghost pops up out of nowhere, because I do get jump scared pretty easily. So you might get to hear Big Bad Thorne, eek! You might get to hear it. It's pretty funny when it happens.
I was there for one of those moments, and yeah.
Look, I'm a guy who can put a gun to my head. I'll be like, what? But if you do it quick, so I'll jump. I'll be like, eek! But
you were so upset. It's like, I'm mad. That was legitimate. I wasn't trying to be funny. It fucking got me. It got me.
You got me. So we definitely having fun there, and everybody gets involved on different nights. We even have our own Reverend Eddie, Dr. Eddie Romanov, does a Tuesday night thing that he does there. I haven't been able to tune in for one of those. Hopefully he's saying things I would agree with, so I don't have to murder him in his sleep. But no, he takes over one of the party rooms, and he holds a little sermon or whatever the hell it is that he does. And, a bunch of people show up for that. It's actually pretty cool. It's a little chat hangout. He has a good time. So
fuck yeah. I was only able to be there for the first one. I keep having shit come up every single time.
Tuesday's a bad night for
it's
me.
Cool. It's just hanging out, and it's like kind of just a open form magic discussion, kind of led by the great Eddie. It's fucking dope.
Mm-hmm. And I'll tune in sometime if we like him. Maybe we'll tap him and have him show up on the show once or twice and hang out. But
oh fuck yeah, Eddie's a funny dude. He'd be great on here.
Yeah. So I mean, we've been having a good time, and it's actually a lot of fun. So for those of you who are new here tonight, or anyone who has Discord and didn't know about this, right now on the Flesh Priest screen, you will see it says join our Discord. It's real easy. You just literally type that into your web browser, and you type in discord.gg/6EETR capital
and 2
E.
capital E's.
Right. So what does that actually phonetically sound like when you say it?
Sexy tree.
Sexy tree. We got the 60 tree. So Discord GG/60 tree. And that's our channel, guys. So join us there. If you join us tonight, if I can tell that you joined during the stream, I will assume that you're cool, and you will be given automatic general status. If you join after the live stream is conducted, like let's say this is the next day and you're just watching it in the reruns, I do ask that you follow the directions that the bot's going to give you when you join. The bot's going to basically, I wrote this big long instruction book, and you got to read that real quick and answer the questions and join up. You can also just check out, I don't remember if server announcements is public. It's probably not, but as soon as you join and you've been accepted, check out the server announcements to see what everything is and what it does. And we're going to have some fun there. And we'll correct you if you fuck up. We'll tell you if you're wrong. So.
And we have a super chat from Syncubus.
Cool.
Says,
I like that name.
hey DH, right? That's pretty fucking dope.
Dude. That's really fucking good.
Hey DH, I love your content. Want to know if you've ever heard of Hyperianism?
Yeah, I love Morg. Morg's
okay,
pretty cool.
Thank you.
I don't agree with everything Morg says, mind you. Nobody does. Nobody should agree with everybody, so I want to make sure that clear. If I say I like somebody, that means I like them. It doesn't matter whether I agree with everything they say or not. I think he's got a great channel. He's got very intelligent content, and I have watched him in the past. I don't watch him as much lately. I have heard of Hyperianism. I know he's started a movement, and I don't blame him. Although I think we might disagree about a few little details, he's a very, very, very good channel, and I do recommend him. And I think a lot of our philosophies would probably agree on some levels. I think we would see a lot of things in common. I think where we would disagree is I think he's, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not like a friend of his. I don't know him, and I don't want to attack what I think he represents. I'm not trying to attack anything, but I don't want to go after what I think he represents. I'm just going to go with what I've seen. One of the areas that I think I disagree with him slightly about is he's made it very clear that he's a little bit more of a materialist than I am, at least in certain respects. And he's a very brilliant guy. He knows a lot about the math and the science and the golden ratio and all this good stuff. He's discovered in his work what he believes is, if I remember correctly, the mathematical code for the soul. Very interesting, and it's not that different from things that have been discovered with, if you really look at the deeper mysteries of antiquity from the Greeks. We're talking Pythagoras and Plato. When you really take these ideas and you figure out the mathematics, which I'm not very good at, admittedly. I'm more of a philosopher, and my logic is more philosophy oriented. I'm more of a if-then type of guy. I'm not a 1 + 2 type of guy. So my kind of logic is more conceptual. But anyway, there's a lot to be said there, and Pythagorean geometry, they would murder you if you understood the meaning of what they were getting at. They would murder your ass if you weren't allowed to talk about it. And Plato was, of course, very, related to those things. He knew a lot about that, and a lot of those things kind of came together. There's people who know a lot more about this than I do. I'd say that Morg is probably one of those people. He probably knows more about this than I do. It's been more of his focus. I've been a little bit more of just a non-dualist, and I'm not going to get on that rant yet. Don't worry, we're not going there yet. I'm way more of a non-dualist, and I hang my hat on the metaphysical principles of non-duality rather than some kind of mathematical code. Now, he's not wrong for doing so. My argument would be this: he is, I'm not trying to misrepresent him. So if I'm getting this part wrong, don't think I'm criticizing here. What he does is he talks a lot about what I see as the material side of the truth. And I try to balance a little bit more. I try to realize that the truth is not one or the other. It's the Baphomet. It's the as above, so below, the many in one, the one in many. That's what I see. And so I am interested in the mathematical component, because the expression that we see around us, for the most part, if you're in my universe, if your universe resonates with me, if your objective self experiences reality in a similar wavelength as my subjective self, so we could all say that we're part of like a matrix of consensual reality. When we all agree upon this reality, well, mathematics is very important to it. And we see in our reality the reoccurring golden ratio, the Fibonacci sequence. We see, 1.682? I forget, I haven't got it memorized. I think it's 1.6 something or other. When you understand that number, when you understand the Pythagorean triangle, the golden triangle, when you understand 3 triangles make a pentagram, when you understand these basic principles, these mathematics, you go, holy shit, we're talking about fractals. We're talking about a great big fractal system. And then you realize, well, that's a perfect materialistic explanation for how reality organizes itself. That doesn't mean it's reality. It's just the seed idea. It's like when if you play No Man's Sky, which we do, by the way, Desmond. Maybe we'll do an open game with that. Wouldn't that be fun? Just have everybody join in a big No Man's Sky, fucking everybody build like a big base.
And just glitch into the planet.
Well, they fixed it quite a bit. Hey, have you played the new one? You should play the new one with me. You're going to play it.
Yeah, maybe I'll get around to it.
I'll do some magic and make you try. It didn't glitch for me at all. Mine was good when I played it last. So, but no, but for real, like if you played No Man's Sky, it uses seed. For crying out, Brainiac's sake. There's a word for it, and that's not something my brain's good at, is remembering words, except for really big ones that I use all the time. It uses procedural generation. There we go. So it uses procedural generation, and it does so with like a seed number. And it takes a seed number, and it populates the world with just randomized noise. But then that noise is used to create planets and stars and all this stuff. It is a very primitive version of the reality that we're looking at, I think. So I think there is a seed. I don't know about number. I think mathematics is an idea that overlays the matter. But I think these things are indicative of each other, as above, so below. So if you have a number that means something, you can have a thing that means that. You can interplace them a little bit. So I think what we see is, I think he's not wrong to look at the mathematics, but I think that attracts a certain type of mind. And then you have the more spiritual that go like more dogmatic. Oh, all is God and all this stuff. And that's on the other side, and they don't tend to come together very well. They tend to argue because the one side's going to say, there's no such thing as God, it's all math, and it's all a simulation and a hologram. And the pantheist, or the other, the hermeticist or something, is going to say, well, no, it's all divinity and God. And then the materialist is going to say, well, God is numbers, and they're going to say, no, it's not. And then very often they have a conflict. And I'm not saying Morg would, again, I want to make sure that we clarify that I'm not saying that. But there's a tendency for that. And me personally, I try to integrate them smoothly so that there isn't an argument. Because to my mind, to my understanding, both can be equally true because they're representative of each other. They're mirrors of each other. You could have a divine spark that manifests in the material world in mathematics. That's not a problem for my mind. But some people, for whatever reason, they need it to be one or the other. And I understand partially why. Part of it is because of the way cultures and societies organize themselves. Partially is because of the propaganda against certain kinds of thought that have shot things down. And one of the things that Morg said that I think was brilliant, in fact, it meant more to me than all of his mathematical work that he talks about, was, and he said this very clearly, he said, it was human creativity and imagination that built the pyramids, right? And this was like, yeah, imagination and creativity, that's the God spark. That's what it is. Without that imaginative capability, you don't make pyramids. The pyramid has to exist in an astral way before you can erect it as a physical thing. And whether you think it was aliens that went whoop, 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 and fucking lifted stones, or some kind of, magus that shaped it with magic, whatever the fuck you think it was, or if you just think it was some old timey-wimey engineers that knew more than they should have for whatever reason. Maybe they were really, as my opinion might be, they were somehow descendants of Atlanteans who maybe had better technology, maybe not like we have, but certainly enough that they could have figured it out. And that's why it just kind of appears out of nowhere in the fossil record, basically. Because if you think about it, and I got to redo my research, but if I remember correctly, there isn't any indication of much, it's like we have nothing and then pyramids appear with big cities and stuff. There isn't like a very clear build-up to that. It's just kind of like, boom, there it is. And if there is a build-up, it's not like thousands of years. It's like, here's a civilization, it's brewing, it's got 100 years, then bang, pyramids are appearing, and they just build them up in the span of, one generation, I think it was, each one of them didn't take that long. So it's pre-dynastic people. If someone wants to double check that for me, I could be wrong on that, but if you don't mind, you can look that up for me. I'd appreciate that.
Oh, dear Lord.
Shit, look at this.
Super chats.
All right, I'm shutting up.
Okay, hold on. I gotta get it before they get out of hand. Rowdy Craven says, just wanted to say thank you, brother.
Oh, you're welcome, Rowdy. Thank you. In fact, I love that name, Rowdy. Rowdy Piper was one of my favorite guys from the old days. I know that's not why your name's there, but I want to talk about him. And watch They Live. You'll understand what's going on in the world so much better if you watch that movie.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Rowdy, thank you, brother. Thank you for enjoying what we're doing. We love doing this. Whether you pay us or not, we're going to be here, and we really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, Eddie just posted something the other day about the fight scene from They Live.
Yep.
Okay, good. You saw that from the perspective of trying to have somebody achieve gnosis. I thought that was funny as fuck.
To be brutally honest, I mean, yes, that's true. But that scene to me is really indicative of what it's like to deal with someone who has been, for lack of a better word, brainwashed. When people are really propagandized and they have been kind of like Stockholm syndrome, when they have been made to believe a thing, they don't simply disbelieve. They literally are allergic to even contemplating the alternative. And eventually that happens to everybody in everything. Everybody's got bias, so we got to remember it's not necessarily done intentionally, but in the case of that movie, we have to assume that, I forget everybody's name. What was it? Nada, I think it was Nada and, what was his friend's name? Oh, shit. Fuck. I love him as an actor, too.
Let's call him Joe.
No, his name was not Joe. What the hell? Oh, my God. Well,
I'm
anyway.
Just saying, let's call him Joe.
We'll call him Joe. So Nada versus Joe. When he's trying to get him to put on the glasses, his resistance was actually it's psychological self-defense, because he doesn't want to change his paradigm. And he's comfortable in that paradigm. Even though he was miserable because he's like a bum or whatever, he's comfortable being that bum. And so we resist. And we do that even now. Okay, look at the world around you right now. regardless of which way you lean, I'm sure you're looking at the other side saying, oh, they have this problem, they won't see the truth. Every one of you is doing that, okay? Now, I happen to think that I see the truth, but maybe I don't. It's possible, okay? But people have lost their ability to think critically. That is a sign of being overly propagandized. When you study people's behavior, when people do not have an emotional identity investment in one truth or another, they're usually generally open to hearing alternative ideas. For example, if I said to you, Desmond, I really think that Intel is really flubbing the CPU market right now, and you're not going to go, oh fuck no fucking way, oh I hate AMD, I'll never use one, because you just want the best possible computer you can have, right? So you're going to buy whatever processor you think is best, and it's not going to be a case of identity, argument for you. It's going to be literally, oh, maybe it is better, maybe, or you're going to say, well, actually, I found Intel had this. I'm going to say, oh, really? And we're going to have a rational discussion. But for some reason, when we engage in something in which there's an identity aspect, a tribalistic aspect, that door
Some people
swings.
do get tribal over red and blue.
They
in
absolutely
their
do.
CPUs.
No, they do. That's why I used it as an example, but most people wouldn't understand that. Like, you don't have that problem. I don't have that problem. If you tell me, like, Intel's better this year, I'm going to be like, fuck yeah, I'll buy an Intel then. Right now I like AMD CPU and Intel graphics. That's just me. I don't know if that's changed. Maybe it did, but...
Up, and just like that, we lost half of our viewers.
Fuck. Trump for president? Let's see the other half go. MAGA, baby! No. So for real, though, I mean, people get this identitarian thing going on. And I'm always... the type of person, when I see that, I sift out that bullshit. I try my best, and I try to find the true truth, the true that's hidden below it. And I go, well, what is the ulterior motive for trying to get me to be triggered via some sort of an identitarian thing? And when I do that, hopefully I find a better truth. But here's the thing. People who are really suffering from propagandized minds find it not just uncomfortable to hear the opposition, because that's not it, because sometimes the opposition is so ridiculous. Yeah, it's like, fuck, I don't want to hear this again. I'm frustrated dealing with it. Sometimes that happens too. But when they are really shown, like, you cannot dispute the fact, and they still, like, they get hurt by it, they get hurt internally, that's a sign that they're not simply convinced of one idea being better than another, they identify with it, and that is usually a product of propaganda. Now, of course, with current events, since a lot of the decisions that are being made are existential for some of you really are scared of the coof, some of you are not. And those of you who are scared, to hear people like me saying, oh, well, fuck your lockdowns, I don't believe in mandatory lockdowns, but people who are susceptible should be allowed to take off from work and not have to worry about starving to death. Like, we can find a middle ground, right? Well, some people are being reasonable, and some people are being identitarian about it, and they're being panicky and weird. So Kevin Cole's great. Trump season, Biden season, Trump season. Exactly. So you get this wacky thing. Now, personally, I know which side I'm on. I know why. I know what I believe, and we try not to make it too big here. So if I do talk about that, it's mainly just for the higher message behind it. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for or why. I'm going to talk about the situations and the philosophies within them. So going back to that scene with Nada and the glasses, people who
by the way, I figured out his name. His name is now let me see if I'm pronouncing this right. Frank Armitage.
Frank Armitage.
His name is Frank.
Frank. Oh fuck, that's a hard word to do. Frank. Is that another super? Is that what that was?
No. That was the name of the character.
Oh, Frank Armitage. Yes, of course. That's why I remember. I always think I should remember that name because I used to love a movie called Armitage the Third when I was growing up. It was one of my favorite animes from the 90s, and I always see his name and go, oh yeah, Armitage. That's right. Such a cool name. I love that name. Frank Armitage. Yeah. So anyway, in that scene, what you're witnessing is a person who has become really, really, really invested in the delusion that they have. And this is why he fights it so hard, because it's not easy to wake people up to a truth that they're invested in. And when you have, I think we can all agree that there's extreme people on both sides of every, current argument. You have the people burning down the cities, and then the people who want to burn the people burning down, and blah, blah, blah. There's all kinds of insanity. And those people are unfortunately lost. There's not much hope because they've been brainwashed and propagandized so much to believe a certain thing that you're kind of stuck, There's not much you can do, and except to counter that, right? And how do you counter it? Well, we'll probably find out in a couple weeks. But at the end of the day, people who are rational see this, and then they see this, and that becomes painful. So when you have Nada trying to fight to get his friend to see with the glasses on, he's actually in deep pain because he needs an ally and he needs this friend, and he's willing to go to those lengths to get his ass kicked for like a whole 10 minutes straight, and then finally just from deep within him comes the will to just give it one more go, and he finally gets the glasses on him. That's a great, what's that, like a 10-minute fight? It's a great fight. It's like one of my favorite fights
something
ever.
like that. It goes on a long time.
Some would say a little too long, but yeah, it goes on a long time. And when he finally gets the glasses on him, well, then there's release, isn't there? And everybody's like, oh, thank God. Oh, thank you. So anyway, guys, that's my soliloquy about that stuff. I'll shut up now. We'll go to some other people that have generously donated.
Actually, hold on. There was something. So GR with Super Chat says, always a worthwhile listen. Thanks.
Oh, thank you, GR.
And thank you to GR. And Shaman Sorcerer says, mathematics can solve so many things, but not common sense.
Mathematics is a modeling tool. That's what it is. It's a modeling tool.
I like Rowdy Craven made a comment about that chat got in on. He said, not sure why they call it common sense because it doesn't seem that common anymore.
Yeah, really.
Oh, you almost got him to spit.
You did. It would have been an orange splash all over. Behemoth Axe, brother, what's up? For those of you who do not know, I must say this every time Behemoth Axe shows up. One of the better YouTubers I've ever seen. Some of the most beautiful ritual work that you can watch. Check out Behemoth Etch, and he always has a really good message to go with his videos, so make sure you check him out. Definitely one of the people that inspired me to try and to set up my own, visual art version of doing what I do magically, because let me be brutally honest, I don't always use beautiful setups. Sometimes I just sit outside with a staff and just chant and do those things, but having a beautiful ritual setup can help so much. It adds so much energy, and Behemoth X is a wise guy, and I mean that in a nice way. He's not a wise ass. I mean, he's a very wise guy.
He's a wise guy.
He's a wise guy. He's got a good channel, and I haven't seen him do quite as many videos lately, but he puts out good quality, which is always worth it. So definitely check it out. And then I think we had reached the end of our super chats there, I think, right?
Yep, all caught up.
All right, cool. So, but at some point, I do want to admit, guys, that part of my own personal hang-up is that I have very strong understandings and views about things that are going on in the world, and I don't want to alienate my audience. And I walk a very fine line because I don't want to be fake. And in one of my videos recently, the video that's for Lucifer's Chosen Only, Lucifer pretty much gives me a slap a little bit. He wasn't talking about my beloved when he was talking about me in this. He was a little disappointed in me. And he says, you're selling out a little bit. And I realize that I am, because I'm not talking about the things that they show me as much as I could, because I'm afraid. I'm afraid a little bit of what people will respond with. And I have to admit that, because there's a lot of divisive anger. And I also want to be kind of an oasis where you guys can come and know that I'm not necessarily going to attack you for what you think and not bombard you with current events all the time. But every once in a while, I do have to bring it up. And so I'm going to be using my BitChute channel more for that content. So if you want to know more about my political leanings or current events, my BitChute channel is really going to be where you go for that, except for occasionally when I bring it up here because it's just such a big deal. For example, the big tech censorship issue affects this channel directly. So when you have big tech corporations like Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook, where they literally censor for one side or the other, and right now I think we all know, at least if you're rational, which side that is. When they're censoring in favor of one side or the other, or let's also be honest, sometimes people will say you're censoring me, but they really did break a term of service. Let's be honest, that does happen, but we're going to say the scales are definitely tipped in one direction right now, and it's on record why, not to sound like Alex Jones, but there's definitely an imbalance going on. And I'm going to speak to that a little bit tonight briefly, because that affects my channel directly, because some of the things that I talk about are questionable. They're things that in another world might be things we're not supposed to talk about. And the idea that a platform, which to me is more like a phone company, should be able to censor. You know, it's one thing to say, well, that's their private property. Well, in a lot of cases, it will be. Something will be your private property. If it's your home, or if it's your channel, or if it's your Facebook page or your Twitter wall or whatever the hell you're using, I think you should have a right to block out people that you don't want to look at. I think that's fair. Just like if you have a television, you should be able to change the channel anytime you want if you don't like what's on it. And you should be allowed to write into the TV station and say, I don't like what's on your channel. That's well within your purview. What I don't like is when these things broadly censor not simply content that's, you know, maybe little kids shouldn't be seeing porno. I get that, right? Even though personally in my brain, it's like, I think people are moralistic. I get that. I get why you wouldn't want that. So that's one thing. But then to say, well, we're not allowed to discuss conspiracy theories, even as a form of entertainment, now you're pushing it too far. You're silencing, I don't care what the conspiracy theory is about. It can be that Trump's a Martian. It can be that Trump's a god. It doesn't matter what it is. Whatever side your conspiracy theory is on should be allowed to be made public. It should be out there. And these platforms are not, they're not publishing companies. They're not private. Well, they are private, but they're not like, you know, a store or something which says no shirt, no shoes, no service. They have become the new forum in which everybody mainly communicates. Every single person on here, every single one. Well, Jen, you don't know what's fact. I'm sorry, but I know I watched your last video, and I'm not going to call you out too much because I respect you. But fact is a subjective word, unfortunately, in this world. And some people will say you're not speaking fact, but it's also a question of which kind of truth are we looking for. There are perspectives. Okay, perspectives are perspectives. If you realize, Jen, let me put it to you this way. There are people who are going to watch my channel and say I'm not being factual because I'm talking about spirits. And then by your logic, I should be shut the fuck down. Think about that. If scientists showed up here tonight and said everything Thorne talks about is bullshit, would that argument hold? Should I be shut down? Should you be shut down? Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, a lot of people are saying, well, even still, that's part of freedom of speech. People should be allowed to do that. Then it's your job as someone who sees fact differently. I know you don't, Jen. That's why you're cool. I know you're cool with talking about these things. That's why I'm talking about it. People who do see those things as perspectives, not facts, can argue back. And when we censor things, when we shut down free speech, not because people are being rude. Like if someone came to your channel and mouthed off to you, or anybody for that matter, if someone comes to your channel and is like, oh, you're a fat asshole talking to me like that, I'm not going to listen. You're in my house. Get out. Click. Gone. Okay, this is no. But if you're having a rational conversation with somebody, I'm not going to tell you not to have, yeah, exactly. Fuck censorship. Exactly. So we're seeing that going on, and we just saw it happen just the other day with, I can barely even talk about it because my channel could get censored just talking about it. The Washington Post article, I'll just put it that way. If you don't know about it, whether you agree with it being news or not, it got censored, and it got badly censored, very badly. And as a left-hand path practitioner, my job is always to be the antithesis of what authoritarian establishments try to tell me. Whether I agree with it sometimes or not, I have to always say, you know what, if you're censoring people, even if I happen to be on your side, I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with you doing that to my enemies at all. Because it's not a fair playing field, because that means one day that cannon can be swiveled around and shot at me instead. So no, I stand very much. Well, no, they can't, Zulak. They sort of can, but they sort of can't. They're protected, but that's probably going to go away. I think we're going to see, depending upon what happens in November, we're going to see a big change possibly very soon. And you guys are all going to be affected by it, and so is this channel. And that's a promise. It's not a prediction. It's a promise. Things are not going to be like they were in 2015, 16, 17 ever again. Those days are gone. Everything is coming to an explosive, revelation in the next year or so. I promise you, it's going to be crazy, and it's all going to be nuts. I fully expect. Basically, here I want to tell you guys, if you're out of toilet paper, now's a good time to buy a stack. Just telling you. I'm not saying you're going to need it. I'm just saying better get it now, because it's going to get bad again. I guarantee it. So get your shit together. Please get your shit together. So yeah, I'm not really trying to make this political. I'm not into politics. What I'm into is ideas and positions on things. This is why I'm a little bit less likely to fall into the trap of my team is better than your team. You'll never hear me say with a straight face the way other people will say, well, such and so is such a great this and that. No, I don't think that. I say, well, he's right about this and he's wrong about that, and because I agree with those things more, those are my priorities, that's where I stand. Well, I prioritize things like freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, those basic principles that allow me to have this channel and talk about shit that pisses Christians off all day long. I couldn't do that if it wasn't for those things. So that's why I'm ranting about it, guys, and I will cut it at this point. Hopefully you guys understand. I really do, because it's not meant to be divisive. But this is something that I stifle because people tune in to hear about how you're the universe. Well, let me be brutally honest. If you know you're the universe, then that's not right to be looking at the universe and going, well, I guess it's cool that you're censoring everybody now, universe. That's pretty cool, because that means it's going to happen to you. So you've got a right, as a part of that natural spark of the universe, to stand up for your freedom, and you should. And anybody who doesn't, or anybody who argues for the shit that I'm talking about, don't call yourself left hand. Please don't. If your idea of left hand has anything to do with freedom anyway, please don't call yourself that. If you're okay with censoring people you don't like. I want them out there. I want everybody I disagree with to be out there and speaking their mind and blabbing away. Yes, again, you have a right to shut them down on your personal little corner of the neighborhood, but the neighborhood has free speech as far as I'm concerned. Everyone's little island should be allowed to say whatever they want, and people can isolate them if they want to do it. So, okay. Now that how many people left the chat from that? Oh, we're up to 65. We must be okay.
And I'm gonna be perfectly honest. I was managing a little bit of the background stuff right there, so I drifted off through a good part of the conversation. But
that means it's going into your subconscious, and I'm slowly converting you to whatever it is I say.
Oh no, the cult of the flesh is being taken over.
That's right. The thorns always do stick in the flesh, don't they, brother?
Oh, you bastard.
You didn't think I planned that from when I gave you that name?
Was that an innuendo right there?
And to think that you didn't plan that since I gave you that name.
Maybe this was already touched on. Maybe it wasn't. I think one thing that, I've said this before. You and I disagree on a lot of things. And we obviously, you're one of my best friends. We're still here and we respect each other. So even if you hear something you don't like or whatever, it's all just, we can all still get along.
Because I don't think you're crazy. I think if you disagree, you don't go, oh, that means he must be racist. You don't think that way. You understand that there are some differences, but we also pretty much agree about at least the fundamental, most important things in life. And, the issues that matter to us individually. You're not sitting there going disarm D.H. Thorne. It's not coming out of your mouth. I've never seen you do it. If that is what you think, well, fuck you. But no, it's never coming out of your mouth. I've never heard even the thought, entertained. So things that I treat as very important, you're not attacking those things. And I often tell people, there's a meme that goes around, well, I can disagree with you without losing you as a friend. And that's like saying how humble you are. That's a very noble gesture that you're making. But there are issues we can't just agree to disagree on. There just are. If there's somebody who says, I want to end the emancipation of black people and put them all back in slavery, is that okay? Can you just be their friend? No, you can't be their friend. Of course not. I couldn't be their friend. No. What's that?
Fuck no.
Right. Fuck no. Right. Milton says, disarm D.H. Thorne and arm everybody else. Fuck you, Milton. Fuck you, man. Good joke, though. So for real,
that was like fucking the other day when somebody joined the Discord with a neo-Nazi username.
Yeah, we had a good talk about that, didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah.
because it's like,
Just
you know,
just
all right,
ban. No.
yeah, jokes are jokes, but not, again, this is our house and we want to keep it clean a little bit because we want people to feel welcome here. That doesn't mean that you can't hold crazy ideas. I mean, if you're a fucking closet commie, a closet Nazi, whatever the fuck you are, keep it out of the fucking room and you can have that in your mind and prosecute it wherever you want. We try to keep the server at least free of some of that. But we still welcome a little bit of, if people want to talk a little bit about politics there, I don't make it a big thing because I don't want it to be a big thing. If people have polite conversations about it with respect, by all means, talk away. Please talk. That's part of the problem is everybody's so galvanized and split apart that they don't talk. So people need to be able to talk a little bit, without fear of censorship, a little bit, and let it be that. But it can get a little crazy, right, guys? We all know that part of what makes the internet insane right now is that if you go on to certain social networks and you say that you're pro-Trump, you're going to get dogpiled very quickly by a lot of people. Whereas if you go to other ones, they'll support you for saying that. If you say the other thing, you might get dogpiled, you might not, but you'll definitely be, treated similarly. So what's going on? What is going on? Again, I was having a discussion with my friend Johannes tonight in private, and we were talking about this issue in general. And I had said, what the issue is, I think personally, is that a lot of people they identify not with a fundamental principle of, say, I'm an identitarian versus I am, what's the opposite of that? Oh my goodness. Not a statist, but
Of course, I tune out when you're having a brain fart.
I know, I hate these brain farts. You can tell when I didn't get a good night's sleep when I have a brain fart like this. Oh goodness. Oh jeez, it's freaking. I hate these terms too because you know what? I'm going to look it up in our conversation. Oh my goodness.
You know what? While you're looking that up and getting that train back on thought, I'm going to say right now, since we didn't announce it at the beginning, this is a live call-in show, as it is every week, which we will open up the floor to in about 14 minutes. We have 2 super chats, one from Jennifer Vatsa, the great and powerful.
Thank you, Jen.
She says, I appreciate how you presented a lot of ideas that were new to me and helped me see a different perspective outside of my lefty city girl habitat.
Jen, it's all cool. I mean, like when I watched your stream, I watched your video the other day, my only personal criticism was that you kind of made it about one group of people rather than the problem itself, if that makes sense. When you say otherwise, I agree completely. Like, we shouldn't be dicks to each other. Like, sending dick pics, fuck that shit. That's bullshit. And being tolerant, is very important. I'm not saying you should just accept everything, but you should be tolerant. Be like, hey, you get to live your life. It's cool, man. Live your life. I agree with that. But when it's kind of aimed at only one group, I just worry about the bias. But otherwise, I think we agree a lot more than you think on some of those things. So we're all cool, and I appreciate you so much, Jen. You're really cool. Thank you so much. And she's fun to have in our Discord channel, guys, by the way. She chats up a storm, and she's funny. So make sure you join us and hang out with us, because she put up a good... We were all there in the Cards Against Humanity, and she's even busy. She put up some really funny answers, so she did a good job. We do love Jen in our channel. So, but yeah, okay, I'll have to watch the follow-up then. Yeah, I'll have to watch that. And personal experience has a lot to do with it. If you've had nothing but bad experiences, it can be hard to get around some of that stuff, right? I mean, if you were raised in an environment where XYZ is horrible, oh man, that can be really hard to get around, guys. That can suck. It can take you a lifetime. This is why racism persists, even because people grow up with a perspective because their immediate environment says, well, those people over there don't like me because of the color of my skin, and so therefore we have to have this. That sucks. That really sucks, but it's unfortunately what happens in a lot of cases. So I'll try to check out your other video about that too. That is important,
And let me get in here. Shaman Sorcerer has been very patiently waiting. He actually just sent a laughing pear sticker, but earlier he also had a super chat that said, "The dark arts at the end of the month will be magnificent. I got the VP ticket. I very much appreciate your channel. Thank you, brother."
That's awesome. I got to talk to EA and see what's up with that, and see if I can sneak into that and just watch it. But I'll pay him if I have to. I don't know what it costs, but it wasn't too bad. but I think I might have to put that on my business expenses and see if I can write it off. But it looks interesting, and he did mention that next year he wants to invite me, so to be a participant. So that would be cool. If he and I are still hanging out together, I would look forward to that. And if I wasn't busy doing the big gate work that I'm doing this Halloween, which is sort of, that's sort of special. It's a lot of shadow work stuff, and some of you guys know about it, some of you don't, and it's meant to be sort of not hush hush, but it's not meant to be super public knowledge. I will be talking about that more when it's done, though, because there was some pushback when I announced it. There was definitely some goodies who were like, "How dare you?" And it's like, shut up, you don't understand what we're doing. So yeah. So okay, let's move on to. So let's wrap up. Let's wrap up that one chain of discussion and go back to. We had a couple of topics we were going to talk about.
Really quick, a quick pin in that. Also talk to Lamina Nightstorm about that.
Okay. Yeah, I know she's active in our channel now too, and we've been chatting with them on their channel, and they're good people. Like, they seem really cool. We've been talking in private, and we've been having like a lot of fun. If you own combat boots, I've had combat boots since the 90s. What the fuck? No, I'm not Antifa. Jesus Christ. I'm not a white supremacist either for having combat boots, because they had them too. I remember we used to fight I don't want to get into it. We used to have a lot of fun with the skinheads back in the day. That's all I'm going to say. And by fun, I mean there was a lot of broken bones on both sides. Yeah, but go for it. What were you going to bring up there, Mr. Priest of the Flesh?
Oh no, that was it.
Oh, that was it.
That was it. And yeah, and go ahead. You were going to put a pin in the previous discussion.
Yes. It's something that's on my mind, and that's why I bring it up, because that's part of what Lucifer's message was. It was that I have been kind of cautious because I don't want to divide my audience, and I'm sure I'll have some dislikes just because of this part of the stream. I'm sure of it, and I've realized that most people on the left-hand path are not afraid of other ideas. That doesn't mean, however, that I will tolerate cruelty or rudeness to me or my friends while I'm having those discussions. This is one reason why I dislike having them. On my Facebook page, I've made it a habit now where I just tend to delete anyone I see that's really, really nasty about things. And me and a guy had an argument about the lockdowns the other day, and I respect this guy a lot. If those of you, and anybody who knows the conversation, please don't bring it up, but because I don't want to make anybody look bad or good. But we had an argument on there, and I respect the guy a whole lot. And it got heated a little bit, especially for him, because he got kind of like double teamed for a minute. And I had to tell one person, I'm like, back off, like, that's not helping. He's a smart guy, okay? He's a very smart guy, and he's a very valuable member of the community, and I respect him a lot. And it felt bad to me that we were having that kind of a disagreement. It wasn't just you're wrong and I'm right. It went to, well, you're this and you're that, and that tells you, like, it felt like that scene from They Live where we were hitting each other to try to make each other wear each other's glasses. And it's like, oh shit, what we should be doing is trying to pull each other's glasses off, because apparently these glasses are toxic too. So we should be pulling the glasses off of each other. Maybe that should be the new meme. Instead of putting the glasses on somebody, pull theirs off, because they're not seeing the reality. So yeah, so let's put a pin in it on that. We can do this, guys. We can have our cake and eat it too. We can have our disagreements and not have to kill each other over them.
And like, okay, one last final little pin on that though. Like, honestly, would you want to wear a dirty homeless guy's glasses if he just came up like, hey, put these on. You'll see into the future.
It really depends, because if you knew me in the turn of the millennium, you'd know that I had a pair of sunglasses that were beat up, and I felt like I was Mad Max or something for wearing them. So they were like my beat up, fucked up. And I liked it because it looked cool as part of like my goth look. So maybe I would. Maybe like, that would be cool. And yes, Eddie, I am a libertarian, but I'm not a socialist, because socialism by voluntary means is fine, but when you force others into socialism, it's like, how's that libertarian? They don't jive to me. But I believe that people can be socialists all day long and not impose things on one another. I think that's perfectly fine. I think that's kind of how a lot of people do things in real life. But anyway, no, I resonate with the libertarian statement, at least in the philosophy side, not in the party side. I think the libertarian party's kind of wacky. But X-ray glasses, Arachno says, if they were X-ray glasses, he would gladly wear a hobo's X-ray glasses. Yes, very true. I wouldn't though, because there's definitely things I don't want to see. Have you ever seen, after 9/11, when they installed the rapey scans. You ever seen like what pressed up fat people bodies look like in things? Now, some of you may be like, I wouldn't want to have that. No, I wouldn't want to have that power. Why do I hear some tapping? Like suddenly Flesh Priest is like, I want to see what these squished up bodies look like.
Oh, you found me out. It's a good thing I'm not broadcasting my screen.
I mean, how else do you think I know about it? I looked it up too.
Which, by the way, sorry, if you see me reaching for my mic a lot, I am just a very loud typer, so I'm muting myself a whole lot to respond to messages and shit in the background.
Well, do you have a mechanical keyboard like I have where the keys are like the red switches where it's like clack, 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 like they go clickety, clackety, clack?
No, I have a membrane keyboard and I'm
you're
still
that
this
loud.
loud.
Wow. Are the tips of your fingers like just like hard, like rocks? Like what's the deal?
I don't know, but you know what? That actually gave me a thought because I was going to say it sounds like I'm typing on a typewriter, and I remembered, typewriter's one of my favorite thing when I was young. That kind of old tech.
Well, have you played the really old ones? And we're gonna talk. Oh, that's a good segue. I see what you did there. I see what you were doing there with the old. I see what you're doing there. I'll shut up. I'll shut up. Go ahead.
Yeah. You know what? Hold on, just one. Okay. So, yeah, actually, it was 1 week ago, right after the stream. We were kind of having our little post-stream just chat, you and I, and you brought up something that was bopping around in your head. You could probably verbalize it better than I can remember it.
Well, let me read here. I'm just making sure. I got a little plink from somebody. I don't know where it came from. I hate when it does that. Because you guys probably all heard that. Let me close this window in case that's where it came from. All right. That was on my OnlyFans live stream account where people are seeing the nude side of this stream, which is below the waist. Now,
the underdesk cam.
Is the underdesk cam on this. If you guys want the OnlyFans version, it's the underdesk cam. It's if you ever wonder what I'm doing with my hands when you can't see them. That would be just such a good, like if I ever got really famous, that's what I would do. I wouldn't actually do anything. I would do like, what's her name? Oh my God. The pink-haired girl. It's oh fuck.
I know who you're talking about, but
Belle.
Bathwater.
Yeah, Bathwater girl. Because I've heard that like from there for her stuff, it's like people go and like they still don't get anything. Like even though they'll pay money, they still don't get the goods. It's freaking hysterical. Anyway, that's what I would do. I would make a freaking stream on something like that where it's like, yeah, if you want the underdesk video, you can have it, and then it's there, and it's like there's like a big elephant head down there or something, like elephant underwear or something, like ridiculously funny. Just be like, ha ha, you paid me money to see nothing.
Go to D.H. Thorne's Etsy page where you can get the mystical left-hand path bathwater. Guaranteed magical results in your next shower time.
I like Jen's idea. It will be a satanic witch humiliating you and making you cry for the Dark Lord. That's fucking great. But I don't know if that would be like a new thing though. Like I never used it, but is that, guys, who knows anything about this? Do you guys know if that's like we need to jazz it up a little bit. I think like maybe like use like some hula hoops or something. Like do something different. Like try to like, that's why I said the elephant mask underwear or something. Because this is like people expect it to be something stupid. So like maybe, I don't know. Well, you know what? Hit us up. We do have the porn channel that we want to start on Pornhub when JD gets back from his vacation or whatever. So maybe we'll do that.
Why wasn't I told about this?
You were. It was your idea. That was your idea.
Was it?
Well, maybe not.
Oh, I can't trust you, man. I don't remember me.
It might have been an idea. So I'm going to answer one other quick question before we get to that awesome segue, the segue that you started for us.
The segue.
The segue. And then we'll take some calls after that segue question. Someone asked about free will, and I'm not going to get into a big thing about it because that's a non-duality question again. But my answer to that basic question, it's very simple.
Everybody take a shot.
Yeah, this is actually a good time, by the way, to read what he's saying, because if you guys want to jump on the Skype call with us, after I'm done pontificating about what we're going to talk about next, then we're going to do some live calls, and that's always a lot of fun. So, all right, we're talking about free will for a minute, and my only question to you is, if you believe in I shouldn't even say believe in, if you identify your reality with the non-dualistic truth that I've discovered, some variation of it, if you believe that there is only source and you're some kind of either an emanation of, an idea of, an aspect of, a fragment of, a piece of the source, then I have to ask you, what will do you think your will is free from? it's kind of a stupid question. I don't mean that like you're stupid. I mean, it's a good question because it kind of gets to the point of the matter. If you believe that you are the universe and you are source, what is free will then? Whose will are you free from? Free will implies that there is a thing that is happening and you can be a part of that. In other words, a part, not part of. You can be apart from it. That's the identity of free will. Free will means that you can do something other than what is already going on. Lack of free will means you're part of some mechanistic system which is already predetermined. What if I told you both were equally true? What if I told you that there was a mechanistic system that's going on, however, you are what determines which part of it you experience next? What if I told you that you are that mechanistic system that is making it all play out? So if I'm coming from the truly materialistic side of the equation, let's say I'm like a modern physicist, then I'm going to say that everything is quantum physics and it's all percolating up from all these variable fields of possibility. And then I'm going to say your idea of free will is just an illusion. You're literally just riding a wave of causality through time and space. And then you got to ask them the really cutthroat question is, what's time then? They can't answer that because they don't know, because time does not exist. Time's an illusion. We should do a whole stream just based on that sometime, which maybe I'll do. But free will would imply that you have the ability to then deny that system of mechanical cause and effect, and that you could somehow, just by some sheer force of will, go completely a different direction. And then they would point to, quite correctly, that they can identify parts of your brain that fire before you make a decision and say, well, the decision you think you made consciously was made subconsciously or preconsciously. So that implies that it's not free will, because then where is your free will? Is it in your conscious mind or in your subconscious mind? Where is it lurking? They would be accurate in questioning that, and that's not wrong. The other end of this perspective is mine, and my perspective is simple. You are that, okay? Tat vamasi, you are that thou art. You are the whole thing. You are the machine itself. You're just identified with one little cog in it that's spinning around madly, and you're going, well, it's going this way, and it's going that way, and I feel like I'm in control of it, but you're not in control of the cog, but you are the machine. So what's actually happening, and this is becoming more and more practical in the scientific community, they have this thing talking about the block universe, the block time universe. This idea is very simple, and that is all possible timelines, all possible universes exist in the multiverse, which I like to call omniverse. It sounds cooler. In this omniverse full of multiverses, think Rick and Morty, everything is happening right now, but it's not happening because happening is a verb, and verbs are not real. Time is not real. There is only the ever-present now. You, however, are a consciousness, which is like a needle on a record player that's going around and around, and you're experiencing that record like the Akashic record, if you will. Let's pretend we can actually use the concept of the Akashic record and make it synonymous with the idea of the block time universe, where everything has happened already, and you are some sort of conscious actor that is experiencing it all in this sort of self-identified way. So you're experiencing things from that tiny little perspective. And PBS Spacetime just did a video on this. That's why I'm kind of fresh on my mind with it. This is relevant to free will, because then what that means is your free will is not how things play out. In other words, you don't have free will over whether you reach out right now and grab something in front of you. That has happened in the multiverse, because the multiverse has every instant of time in it, from the point where you think you want to do it to the moment where you do it to the moment in between. And what you're experiencing is a memory of what you think happened before, which could be a delusion. In other words, the thing that you did that so like, let's say I say, Flesh Priest, reach out and give us the middle finger. Okay, prove that you actually reached out and gave us the middle finger and your hand didn't materialize in that position. Prove it. Everyone who tries to prove it is going to have a memory of it happening. Or they're going to go back and watch the video and they're going to say, well, I saw it happen on the video. But that experience, again, you don't know that it actually happened. It's solipsistic, unfortunately, and even science has to admit non-dualism is not solipsism, but it definitely leans not into solipsism, but it can be confused easily for it. So what you're looking at is a moment of event, a moment of experience in which in every direction is a possibility you can have. I call these in one of my upcoming books. Eventually, it's going to be probably my grand masterpiece if I ever finish it. Is a concept I call paradigm gates, and I don't want anybody stealing that idea. If I see somebody say, "Oh, there's this thing called paradigm gates," I will sue your ass for that. So there's this concept called a paradigm gate, and this is something I'm coming up with where your conscious mind has to travel to other iterations of what is via things I call paradigm gates. And paradigm gates are events which you as a subconscious actor choose to experience in the multiverse of possibility. So you can actually do it slowly with mundane cause and effect and say, well, if I want to pick up that cup and take a drink, I've got to reach out and take it and sip it. However, the experience that matters is the one where you're drinking it, right? That's the one that matters, is the moment of drinking. So how you got there, though, is a memory. So your current experience is always based on a memory you've built up of things that happened before. But did they happen before? I'm telling you they didn't. Or at least not the way you think they did. They're always there. Because in science, because of relativity, we can show that a person that is experiencing a now slice, well, their now slice might be a future slice for somebody moving at a different rate of speed that is distant from them. And by the time they experience it, when their now slice is not the same as yours. So in their view, what happened was predestined in a way, or what you experienced happened in their past. My point is, time is relative to each of us. Time as a constant does not exist. It is not real. So you have this illusion of past and future, and it doesn't exist. You create an interesting story to explain what you're experiencing because that's the only way to do so without going completely batshit crazy, and because your little body can't handle that. You just can't. It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit in your body to know that you're all time and space at the same time. Try to imagine all of the multiverse at once, and it just looks like a blur. It doesn't make any sense. So in order to have an experience, you've got to simplify it down into a smaller number of possibilities. And we exist on a level of potential that we can understand. And so past and future, and I know I said I would only make this brief because we were going to talk about the other thing, but when we're talking about this is what we're talking about. Free will is very much related to this. So all of the things that you think you have a free will in choosing have already happened because they've never not happened. They've always been there. You as a conscious actor, however, get to choose. Now, what part of you is choosing is the tough question that even I have a little trouble explaining and understanding myself, because it's not the ego. Your ego, well, I want to drive left today. That guy, he's riding that wave of decision already. When by the time you realize that you want to make a left turn, something internal way deeper than your conscious thought has already decided turn left. So your idea of an ego having free will is not real. That's part of the illusion. However, your higher self, whatever that is to you, whether it's your higher self, the source, like another step up the chain towards the source, whatever fantasy you like to put on it, that part of you is deciding perhaps what goes next. Or maybe something above that is, maybe it's the source itself that has just said, you know what, I'm going to be D.H. Thorne today, I'm going to go left. And if that's the case, again, where does free will come from? You're not choosing things to happen. You're not choosing how to act. You're choosing which outcomes you want to manifest, quote unquote, experience. Manifest and experience means the same basic thing. They're not synonymous, but they're pretty close. So when we say in magic, I manifest something, that doesn't mean that you cause it to happen. It means you cause the experience of it to happen. So what does that mean? Is that free will or not? Where does that free will happen? So figure it out, guys, because this is a really important question in magic. This is why maguses can do what they do, because they have trained their minds to accept the possibility that certain things are possible. And I don't mean if you believe hard enough you can fly. That doesn't exist. If you say I believe hard enough, what a silly way of putting things. If I believe hard enough, if you believe something hard enough, okay, you either believe it or you don't believe it. If you truly believe something is possible or believe it's for certain, I have very little doubt that you will probably have the experience of that. And by the way, the belief that you can be wrong is also part of that equation. So if you sit there saying, well, I know I can fly because I've seen evidence that I can fly. Well, you also have the belief that you could be wrong about things. that little twinge of belief that you could be wrong about things is all it takes to make rational reality come crashing back down and make you do whatever you think rational reality says you should be able to do. So and this I got, by the way, I don't want to spill the beans, but I had a channeling last night. That's where some of this is coming from. So when we're talking about supernatural things like reaching out and touching something with your mind and lifting it up and having it flying around in telekinesis, is it impossible, or have you just not figured out how yet? If you not rationalize, forget figuring out how. Maybe you know how, but maybe you haven't rationalized why you should be allowed to do it. Maybe you need to spend the years of training yourself with little psi wheels and fucking around until you can get it to work. Maybe you need some guru to bless you with permission to be able to do it. Maybe, just maybe. That's why you can't yet. Maybe it isn't possible. Maybe in our universe, as we understand it, this multiverse, maybe such a thing just isn't possible, because I do believe the law of physics is a law of physics, at least in this area that we're in, at least in this subjective sphere it is. And maybe there's another subjective sphere where that's not true. Maybe there is a universe in the multiverse where we can all fly on dragons and breathe fire and do all kinds of cool shit. Maybe, fantasy magic does work, but it doesn't work here for some reason. I think that reason is that causality bubble that we form around us that says natural law has to be what it is. And when somebody violates those laws within our presence, they may have the experience of doing magic and we don't, because we don't see it that way. We choose not to see it. And so they go off into their own iteration of reality where they can do this magic stuff and you can't, and you will never actually interact with each other the same way again. A version of them will continue in your timeline forever, in which they are not magical, they're just crazy. So to all my former friends who would look at me now and go, well, Thorne's completely nuts again. He put magic down. He was very rational. Now he's a lunatic. Yeah, but they haven't had my experiences. They haven't done the rituals I've had and then have the successes I've had. They haven't had their life completely flipped around. So they'll look at me and go, oh, well, he just got really lucky and learned how to talk to an audience, and I guess he's lying to people. I guess he's faking things and because he doesn't believe this, does he? So they're going to create this interpretation of events that for them is true. And I can argue with it all day long, but how can I convince them? If they don't want to believe it, what would I have to show them? And if I did what I call a magical parlor trick and I did something that was difficult to prove, I don't even think I can do that, because I don't think that's what magic does. I think magic will always follow, at least in my world, a path of least rational resistance. I think it's always going to be rational. And there's one thing that makes magic more rational or less rational. Here I come, Flesh Priest. I'm going to segue. One thing that makes magic more or less rational for people is the concept of the collective conscious unconscious. And that brings us to what you had started us on, and I do apologize for going way out on that sideways conversation, right? But I had to get that out. So this actually has to do
that
with
was good. So I think there's some discussion that can be had there. We're also at 72 minutes. I do also want to get to the call-ins. Do you want to bring it up now, or do you want to bring it up later, or maybe another time and get to...
I think we can bring it up briefly, and do we have people waiting already in the Skype, or...
Yeah, I actually have 4 or 5 people lined up.
Okay, so let's bring it up and then maybe get their take on it after we have pontificated about the idea a little bit. Maybe if they have an opinion about it, they can, and if they don't, that's fine. They can talk about what they want to talk about. So you were going to bring up, and I wanted you to bring up, because it's a great topic. It is a great topic.
Yeah, so like I was saying, after the last stream, when you and I just normally shoot the shit and everything, you were talking about, you were just kind of batting around in your head about why you don't use technology in your rituals, or, why you don't see more technology used. And I had brought up an idea which was not my own, except for that it was in the non-dualist sense. I had been playing a game, Control, recently. Everybody go buy Control. Flesh Priest Game of the Year. And one thing they bring up in there is that in the oldest house, you cannot bring new technology in. It does not recognize it. No magical workings can be done with it because it has not.
I got to keep going.
Yeah, you need to. You're gonna shit yourself.
I probably did already, and I just haven't figured it out yet.
The older technologies, pen, paper, VHSs even, have had longer to sit and develop in the collective unconscious to form an archetype.
Hmm.
Just where, not to say that phones or anything can't, all the really modern stuff we're using, but they just haven't had long enough to develop an archetype.
Yeah, and I think when you brought that up, I'm like, wow, they must know something. Like sometimes artistic people, whether they're involved in the dark arts or not, they probably are, because that's a very high level mystical philosophy that they're espousing there. That is not just a convenient explanation. That is absolutely based on something that is legit, in my opinion. And I don't know if there's other games or franchises that have a similar explanation or not. I don't know. But I will say that from our little talk, a light went on in my head. I'm like, well, of course, that makes total sense because of everything that I
Yeah,
understand about this.
yeah, that game is like obviously very Big Bang explosion Superman-y type shit, but some of the writers definitely know some shit.
Yeah, I think
They
it's
were working
also,
it in.
I think that whole idea of that they're not part of the collective consciousness has a big part of it. And case in point is like I've had personally better luck. And I remember when I was a kid, part of when we were doing magic, it was always swords are better than guns for magic. Like, why can't you use a gun as a magical tool as easily as you can use a dagger or a sword? Why? Well, I mean, obviously they have different symbolism, right? A dagger or a sword cuts things, right? But the sword and the gun are not too far apart in their symbolism. They're both, a symbol of power over others, a symbol of destruction. So why couldn't you use a gun? And then I realized, well, if you handed me like an old Kentucky rifle from like the Civil War or something, yeah, I can see that being magical. I absolutely can. Why can't I see a brand new, Glock 19 Gen 5 as being magical? Why not? Why is that so much harder for me? Why is it so much easier to see a sword, which by all archaeological standards is actually a very recent development in human history, because humanity is millions of years old, basically. How come a sword is magic, but a gun is not? How come? So this is why it's really wild to me. It's an interesting concept, and we were talking about the ghost hunting equipment. That's partially what brought it up too, because King Paimon encouraged me to start collecting ghost hunting equipment, which I have a K2 right here, which I got a good one too.
Oh, fucking dope.
Yeah, and I've been testing it around. I haven't tested it in a ritual yet, but I will be. I'm trying to figure out like what sets it off already to make sure those things aren't around. I know cell phones can set them off, so but I got one and it does work. And here we go. Are you here, spirit? We'll see if it does anything when I'm doing a ritual. So I got one of these things, and I'm thinking to myself, they have these newfangled ones, and they have them supposedly on your phone. I did some research about that too. And part of me is thinking, well, why couldn't your phone be used somehow in mystical things? And there's no rational reason why not, except that they do believe that the frequencies ghosts work on are the lower magnetic frequencies, not the ones that your phone picks up. I know some people are like, oh, there's ghost hunting apps on your phone. I don't think they work, by the way, at all. I think they're completely different frequencies. But when people are talking about this stuff, this is not new. I forget how many years, but this has been around for quite a while. And it's also, even if it was fairly new, this has been featured in a lot of ghost hunting archetypes. You watch ghost hunting programs, everybody's got, or at least at one point had, one of these jammies sitting on the table and asking questions and watching it light up. Everybody's used a tape recorder. Everybody's used a camcorder and a night vision and this and that. So these things are in people's consciousnesses as being consciousness as being spiritually connected somehow. That creates a perception, a collective conscious idea that that's possible. Now, in 50 years, this old cell phone, like if you say, well, cell phones can't be used in magic, they're too new. They're too synthetic. They're not real. Go pick up a cell phone that's in an antique store that's like 30 years old. And you could write a perfectly believable, spooky story about how it still picks up alien signals from the dead or something. It wouldn't be that weird. It would fit a little bit better than this phone doing it, because it's like, well, this is brand new. This should work. The only exception is when something is so new and weird that it's got like conspiracy theories wrapped around it. Then you've got another layer that can maybe rationalize it and make it work. Like, the internet, although that's pretty old too. If you know anything about the internet, it's not new. But the internet, okay, there's always these conspiracies about that, or conspiracies about 5G or whatever. There's all these possibilities. Oh, they just invented a virus that's self-aware, and then you can have some paranormal things about it, right? But yeah, I think that's a really interesting perspective, and I'm going to have to play that game, and then you and I are going to compare notes, and we're going to have some fun with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also want everybody else's take on it, like just technology with ritual.
Yeah, because I'm not going to say I don't use any. In fact, I've used more and more as time goes on. I used to not like doing ritual with any kind of artificial noise at all. Like I'd turn off all music, and I would listen for the creaks in the walls and stuff. You know, like that was a big deal to me. But now I find that I really like having some good ambient music to go with it. So I've kind of cheated a little bit, start using that. I don't usually like artificial lighting. Well, lately I've really liked using a black light, so I'll put a black light on. So I'm kind of learning to cheat a little bit and use technology, especially once I broke my cherry in that regard and started videotaping things. Once I started videotaping rituals, I found it easier and easier to allow myself to use more modern technology in it. But I do think that an antique, just like with anything, what have I told you guys from the beginning? An antique is an object that's been around longer as an egregore. It's been an idea much longer than something that's fresh off the assembly line. So when you pick up, you know, your grandfather's old cane from World War II versus one that just got produced yesterday and you just bought from Kmart, which one's going to feel more likely to be magical to you? Probably, although not requiredly, probably the one that your grandfather had. More likely that one's going to work for you. There are some people who are exceptional. You can charge any object to be magical. You can charge, I mean, you know, what do I got here that would be funny to hold up? I don't really have anything. You could charge this little card reader to be magical. I mean, you could. There's nothing stopping you. It's just, what are your limitations on it, I guess is what I'm getting at. So let's, if you think we're ready, Flesh, let's maybe...
I will start to get the first person in. I will message them. But first, we have a super chat from Syncubus. Fucking, once again, dope-ass name. Can a novice in the dark arts do path working like the... I butcher this every time.
The Clifoth and the Sephiroth. You could say the Clipoth or the Clifoth.
Or the Tree of Life.
I like Clifoth myself.
Or does it take somebody with more knowledge and experience?
I mean, to be brutally honest, I am not known for that system of magic. I don't work with Kabbalistic concepts. That's not to say that I don't like them or I think they're wrong. They just don't resonate with my style of doing magic. They're not what I do. I'm not a student of Golden Dawn, Hermeticism, Kabbalism, none of that stuff. I'm kind of my own guy that's kind of plucked together things like I'm closer, I guess. Some people would identify me as being kind of a chaos magician, but I'm not that either. Specifically, I have some minor differences as well. But the Clifoth, I think, is a valuable system for those who it resonates with. It's kind of like, you know, do you like yin yang? Do you like this or that? So the different cultures have different ways of identifying and explaining the breakdown of the universe and how you can break them down archetypally. And that's what the Sephiroth and the Clifoth really are, is although they are in the believer's mind, in the dogmatist's mind, they do really represent maybe not literal spheres, but spheres of existence, spheres of reality. And within each one is contained the tree again. So it's not like they're separate spheres. They're kind of like, again, like a fractal, I guess you could say, which would be a good way to put it. So you can use those just like you can use the planets. You don't have to be some grand magus before you can touch those things. But my caution would be, don't be a dabbler. And to me, what a dabbler is, it's not somebody who just tries it once and walks away, although that is. To me, a dabbler is someone who doesn't treat it seriously and just tries to do it willy-nilly. Someone who just says, well, you know, I'm gonna invoke Jupiter tonight, and I've never practiced magic before in my life. I have no idea what Jupiter represents. I just want, you know, so don't be half-ass about it. Take your time, find a system of magic that incorporates those two ideas, whichever one you want to use. Find a system that resonates with you, spend some time learning it, and then start working with it. Don't just go, well, I like the way they sound because I hear everybody else talking about them, and think that's the right thing to do. Spend some time learning them. You may find that the Clifoth and the Sephiroth are not for you. They're not really, I've studied them a little bit, and they're not really what I'm into. I don't think they're wrong. They're just not. They don't manifest anything for me in my mind. They cause gum to, like, it causes tar to appear instead of clarity and understanding. I get, yeah, but then I got to connect this, and it's not just that I don't understand it, because I understand it well enough. It creates like too much of like a pinball machine, too much of like a mechanical magical system. Whereas I treat magic more of an internal psychic, like a sorcerer would do, like in Dungeons and Dragons terms. I don't have a lot of knowledge. What I have is like a will to have change, and I make change happen that way, by shifting my consciousness is how I do things, quite literally. So that's, I guess, what I'm going to say. But unfortunately, that's the best I can do, because again, I'm not an expert on those two systems. But remember, there are people for whom those things originated from, who are going to give you a hard time for using it outside of their purview. You're going to have people who, maybe they're rabbis, or maybe they're Hermeticists or Golden Dawn people. Whoever uses Kabbalistic systems might go, how dare you using them without going through our gatekeeping process first? And if you're on the left-hand path, you've got to do it what you think is right. Don't worry about the gatekeepers. You do what you think is right. And that includes me. If I'm telling you don't do it yet, but you want to use it, then you can give me the middle finger. That's your purview. There's no right or wrong. Even if there is, it's not my job to tell you what it is. So go for it, with the understanding that in my recommendation, you don't jump in with both feet. You study them one at a time. You figure out what they mean and how they're going to work for you before you really try to apply what you're learning. But learning things, I would never tell you not to learn things. Learn whatever system you think is cool, and then see how to make that work for you. So I hope that helps. Don't worry about the gatekeeping shit. I hate gatekeeping stuff.
And I'm going to make a little plug on his behalf. If you want to, how do you pronounce it? Quilfoth?
Well, you can say cliff. Think of like the word cliff, like jumping off a cliff, and then foth, or cliffot, or clipot. Any of those.
Let me just say tree of life.
Well, that's no, because that's the Sephiroth, and then there's the clipot.
Okay, so what he said.
The Sephiroth or Sephiroth, that's another way you can say it, or Sephiroth, like the bad guy from Final Fantasy. They basically ripped the name off. There's the Sephiroth, okay, and there's Sephiroth, and then there's, so look it up. I think somebody just put it, Cliff-off is Cliff-off. I like Cliff-off with TH, not OPH. But yes, you could put it all these different ways. There's so many ways you can say it. And there's probably a really right way. There's probably, like, if you ask the right people, well, no, according to the proper Hebrew, it's supposed to be exactly this way. Listen to them, by all means. Listen to them. Don't listen to me. So, Clifford the Big Red Dog. I like that, Aragnos. We're going to call it the Clifford system of the Big Red Dog. The Clifford is the tree that Clifford the dog pees on. It's the shadow of the tree. Yeah. Maybe we should call it the Cliff Goth.
Yes, I do know a guy who is much more into it, and you should hang around on Tuesday in this little place right here. Come on, there we go.
Oh, and is that Eddie guy?
Mr. Eddie.
I might have to kill that Eddie guy. It's going to take my fame. I don't know if I like that. Just kidding. Thank you, Eddie, for being a resource for us. Thank you so much. Yeah. All right, so we'll get to however many we can. I figure we got at least another half hour to an hour, at least in me, for sure. I don't know about you. But so long as we have you, because I know you mentioned you might have to go a little bit early tonight. So for however long you got...
I'm still here and feeling good.
Okay, all right. So whenever you're ready to open the door to the abyss and bring forth our next contestant on The Curse is Right, let us do it.
The Curse is Right. New name?
Oh, it looks like someone we know. Looks like someone... Hold on.
Welcome, Necro Nikki.
Necro Nikki! Come on down. Let me see. Do I have her listed on here? Do you want to be visible, Necro Nikki?
Yeah.
All right, hold on. Let me see if I can find you.
Magically appear.
You're going to... All right, where are you? Let's see. Who'd I have you under? Do you remember? I don't remember who I had you under. Why would anybody remember but me, right? I should just give you your own since you've come on a couple times now. Let me see. I don't know who that is. Let's try that one. Oh, yep, we found her. We got her. All right, cool. Let me center you on the screen here.
Yo.
You're huge. You're taking up the whole. Oh my goodness.
I'm a giant.
You're a giantess. That's or a giant, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Would that be like a Jotun, right? Okay. Let me fix the flesh priest because he's all out of whack. That's the one thing I don't like about OBS. Why does it resize everybody? I never understood why it does that. Okay, Necro Nikki, welcome back. We had you on last, I guess it was last week, right? You popped on for a minute last week. And we talked about the Man in the Hat. We talked about a couple different things. So what's up?
Hey, yeah, I got really okay. So I got excited when you mentioned ghost stories. And then my favorite ghost story that I have actually involves technology too. So
okay,
are you down to hear it?
You know what? I say let's go for it.
Fucking double dipping.
Yeah, I mean, what are we gonna do? Let's tell her. No, Flesh, you've got to tell her she can't talk about it then. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I want to hear about it.
Okay,
it's
me
fucking
too.
double dipping. I love it.
Oh, okay, yeah, all right. So you can also call in next week when we do it again. No, just go ahead. Yeah, tell your story, Nikki. Go ahead.
Yeah, but you said we might not do it next week.
Well, I meant like we might do it on Saturday. But
might do a double feature or something.
We might do a double
it's still
feature.
Up in the air.
We don't know.
Figure it out.
We're kind of dumb.
Oh well, it'll be like a pre-ghost.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. All right, I'm shutting up. Tell us your story.
Okay, so one of my friends wanted to introduce me to his ghost friend, and he had this magical piano that he obtained from this older lady. And he did some art on it and then told me that, like, when he got it, the lady had told him that a ghost was attached to it. We'll say the ghost's name is AD, okay? So at first, like, to be honest, even though this was probably, like, 8 years ago, but still, I was into the occult and witchcraft, and so was this person. And, you know, at first it kind of... I wasn't really sure to believe it or not, you know, but I'm the type of person to where I don't really close anything off. My initial reaction was, sure, dude, you have this ghost that's attached to this piano, but at the same time, I kept myself 100% open to it. And it was funny because it was my first time dealing with the ghost that started following me around for a while. We're talking like a month.
Okay.
It started following around, and it would whistle nonstop, especially at my house, to the point where I couldn't sleep unless I put some like background music, because it was just doing like pretty much the same song over and over.
Oh, that's weird.
I know it's weird. Well, I've heard other spirits before, like sounds of like demons and whatnot. The similar thing about hearing different demon voices and ghosts is sometimes when I hear them, it'd be like they're up in the ceiling or up in the corner, you know, like wouldn't be by me. When I'd hear it in my room especially, it sounded like the ghost was outside. And at the time I wasn't, it was my first time dealing with something like that, so I didn't really, you know, I didn't really know what to do, to be honest. I told one of my friends at work and he thought I was on drugs.
I bet, man.
And
That's exactly
thought,
what happens, right? They're always going to be like, oh, this person's crazy. They're on drugs. This can't be real. Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird because it was like the first person that I told, so I thought to myself, okay, I'm not going to tell anyone about this. And then at the time, the house that I was staying at, someone was temporarily staying on our couch. And it'd be funny because like I'd be having conversations with my roommates in the hallway and hearing the whistling and just trying to ignore it, you know? Mm-hmm. And then the person who was temporarily on the couch, I only told one person about the whistling, the person who thought I was, you know, like crazy or whatever. And then the person who was on the couch looked at me and said, "You hear the whistling too, huh?" And so I love like paranormal stories like that to where, you know, because sometimes it's like, okay, someone tells you that you're crazy. Now, I don't think I'm crazy. I just know, hey, I have certain gifts. But it's always awesome when someone outside of, you know, my occult circle confirms that they've either seen or heard things that I was hearing.
Is it just me, or does anybody else notice, and I totally understand why, but does anybody else notice how important it is that when we tell these stories that there's a confirming agent, there's always someone else, that says, oh, I was there, like, oh yeah, we always have a witness, right? And I think that's interesting to me, because it speaks a lot to us. Like, it speaks a lot to me about what a person's, not just an individual, but I mean as a society, like what we prioritize in this. So I think on one level, I would tell people at some point you just appreciate the experience, whether somebody's there or not, because you've learned to accept it, right? And I think at that point magic gets a little easier. But then at the same time, there's nothing quite like having it validated. Like, I have stories where, like you, like having somebody there validating it, it really makes you feel so much more real. And I think it goes beyond just feeling like, that it gives you some kind of special, like you can compare notes. That's useful, but I think it makes us confident. It makes us feel like we're not crazy, like you said, and that what you're seeing is real. But I will say, like some of the ghost stories I have, which I'll say for the Halloween night, I've told some of them on these streams before, but some of the times that I've experienced these things, like, I didn't need my friend to validate it. I know what I saw. Like, it's like, no, you can't, but yeah, sometimes it's wacky. And I've told this story where, like, imagine you're going to sleep at night and you have a bed in the corner of, you have a chair in the corner of your room, and on that chair you sometimes drape your clothing, and then this one time you're falling asleep and you forgot you put it there, and it's full of stuff and the lights are all out, and you glance over in that corner of the room and you see a lurking monstrous shape, because the way you laid the clothes out in your mind, of course, looks like a lurk. So for a brief moment you're looking at this shadow going, oh shit, it's a shadow monster. Oh my God. So you click the light on and it's just your clothes. Well, what if I told you for that brief moment where you thought it was a shadowy monster, it really was, but your disbelief in it and clicking the light on banished it quite literally from your awareness, and you actually jumped to a universe where that monster doesn't exist anymore. What if that was what happened? I mean, it sounds solipsistic, but what if? And it's an interesting thought. So which leads me to say, like, I've been doing telekinesis experiments again a lot. I'm trying to train myself to get better at it. I did it once when I was younger. I did it really well, and I got it so, like, how like they say, like, when you do a psi wheel, it spins. I can get it to spin easily. That's not the thing.
Yeah. I've done it twice many years ago.
Like, I want to control it. Like, I want it to go left, right. I want it to wobble when I want it to. And I got it to do that one time. And it was the first time I tried it. And I'm like, well, this is fucking easy. There's got to be something going on. Why? And I realized that maybe it worked because I had an open mind to the possibility. I hadn't decided yet which it would be. And I didn't know how it would work. I just had faith that it might. But try as I might, I can't get the control over it again. And I've tried a lot of different things. So, yes, I can put my hand next to it and videotape. You'll see it spinning like a motherfucker. And I can be like, well, that's the direction of my chi flow. And, well, what if it's just the heat from my hand? So I test that. I take a lighter and I put it next to it. Nothing happens. I put a board behind it to block the energy more so it doesn't spin. Nothing makes it spin. Just my hand makes it spin. Why does my hand make it spin and nothing else? When I cover it up, it doesn't spin. Why is it when I keep it open to the energy of my hand, it spins? Why? And I think to myself, well, maybe it is the air currents somehow, but maybe the air currents are moving because my hand, something my hand's called, maybe it is like heat. Maybe, and so I don't limit it to being, it has to be, when I think of something magical, I don't think it has to be something we can't prove before it's magic. I think that it has to be something that happens with no clear connection.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you just do something, like if you just want to run, you just do it, I like to tell people with telekinesis, it's difficult and you have to put a lot of energy into it, but in reality, it is in that sense. It's difficult in the sense that you have to get in the right mentality, but it's not difficult in the sense you just have to want to do it. So, like, for me, I usually I don't really care. I don't want to. I could. Now I just want to practice it because I haven't done it for so long. But the few times I did it, it was, the first time I did it was because I wanted to scare somebody. And then the other time I did it because I wanted to show off. So those were my motives. And I've done it. Show off works. People.
Show off works.
Yeah.
It does.
So, and then when I'm by myself, I don't want, like, if I'm looking at something, what's the point of me doing that by myself? It's cooler if I'm, scaring somebody or showing off. So maybe if I do that, I'll start doing it more.
I remember one time when I was younger and we were doing a backyard camp out, and we decided to do a ritual around the backyard fire. And we had a little It was a wheelbarrow. You know, you ever done a wheelbarrow fire? Most white trash knows what a wheelbarrow fire is. So he had a wheelbarrow. Not that you're white trash. I didn't mean that.
Maybe when I go to Indiana.
Yeah, well, that's well. You're heading. I was looking at that area too, to be honest.
I knew.
It's not a bad area. You know what I'm talking about.
Trash.
Well, that's not what my implication was. It was a bad choice of words. But what I meant to say is, if you're a white trash, you know what a wheelbarrow fire is. And even if you're not, you probably know. But yeah, a wheelbarrow fire is when you take a nice old metal wheelbarrow that won't burn down and you put a fire in it, like a fire pit. So we had a wheelbarrow fire out in the backyard. And so we're sitting around it, and we decided to do a channeling of a spirit that I worked with a lot. And there was one doubter in the group. And they were like, well, I'm a doubter. You don't want me here. I'm like, yeah, sure, you can stay. I don't really care. You know, the people who believe will be with me. I don't really care. You can just watch. You know, just don't be a dick. I really don't care. Just don't be a dick. And so off it goes. We're doing the thing. Spirit shows up. We're talking. He's not very convinced. And this other guy that's with me does know about the spirit, but he was being a dick to me about it because he was just, you know, like, well, why don't you show off then? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? You know, why don't you do something supernatural? And I'm just like, oh, you know, I wasn't even there fully at that point. Like, I was channeling. I was kind of, I was totally zoned out. And the one guy who was being the biggest dick to me he reached in his pocket and grabbed a cigarette. He puts it in his mouth. And just like on an impulse, because I'm channeling / possessed, as soon as I realize I'm doing it, it's too late. My hand's reaching into the fire, and I grab a red hot rock, just blazing red hot ember, barehanded, and I'm like, need a light? The cigarette drops out of his mouth. He runs away like a fucking, like he's got scared. And for the whole next day, they're like, how come your hand is not totally burnt to a crisp?
Wow.
I'm like, shit happens. I don't know. I didn't do that. Like when they say like, well, how'd you do that? I didn't. I don't know what did that. Now, the only thing I could think of to explain it, there's an effect, there's a word for it, which I can't remember off the top of my head. I don't know if it's the Bernoulli effect or whatever, where if you get a really hot pan, like blazing hot, like, you know, like you don't put anything in it. Like you can do this right now on your stove when we're done with the stream. Make it as hot as you can with nothing in it, and then take a little bit of water and spritz it on it. The water will dance around on it and it won't get wet. And it won't actually necessarily burn it either. So it's the same reason why if you lick your finger and hit a hot pan, it doesn't burn you, it just sizzles. So I'm thinking, was my hand really sweaty and that's why it didn't? But then why didn't the back of my hand, which was probably dry, it wasn't even singed, there was nothing wrong with it. I had a tingling for the rest of the day though. Like the next day, it felt like I got shocked with, like, I don't know if you ever get hit by a taser before, but I have. If you ever get hit with like a taser or stuff, it can leave like a burning sensation for a little while afterwards. It felt like that, but it wasn't like I got burned because there was nothing wrong. My hand was fine. It just felt like the nerves were cooked. It was really weird. And could I reproduce that? No. I have no idea how to do that. If someone says, oh, Thorne, that makes you such a magician. Maybe, but it wasn't because I magically said, I can reach into a fire and not be burned. Because if I try it right now, that's going to fucking hurt. I don't want to burn my hand. Sorry. So, I don't know what causes it.
Yeah, I don't want to try that.
No, but stuff like that happens, right? And I think, like with the telekinesis thing, that might be part of it too. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. So with the whistling ghost, well, I happened to Google whistling ghosts just to see what was up with that, and apparently there are known whistling ghosts, and usually they're war veterans, and most of the time they're from World War II.
Okay.
So
do you think that could be like related to like having tinnitus from the bombs going off and stuff? Like they got ringing in their ears, or you think it's something different?
They were known for whistling a lot.
Okay.
Like back in the day, people would do that
True.
apparently.
Yeah, that's
just
true.
For fun, or like if they're bored.
I don't think people whistle as much anymore, right? Because we just turn music on now. We just
Yeah.
True. I didn't think of that.
And so I ended up banishing the ghost, and then years later, so now we're talking like 5 or 6 years later, one of my friends has one of those spirit apps. I know you mentioned earlier on the stream about those spirit apps.
You don't have a lot of faith in them, but go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't have faith in it either, to be honest. I said, no, I don't think those would work. How would it work with an app? But then I made myself 100% open to the idea. Mm-hmm. So my friend, this is when I worked at a restaurant, and so we would talk about aliens and paranormal experiences all the time. We were just into that. Like he was a cook, I was a server, so we just always have stories and we tell each other.
Sounds like
and
fun.
So
yeah, it makes the night go. Yeah.
So he had this app. Let's try it. And it was funny. The ghost was saying, "Nikki's so funny. it was just saying all these awesome things. I forgot like the other words exactly. I remember funny was one, and my friend was making fun of me like, no, she's not. And I think honest was the other one, and I said yeah. And then then I kind of took control of the box and said, all right, spirit, who are you? You know, do I know who you are? Have you been around me for a while? And it was funny, the next word that came on the box was piano. So even though I had banished that spirit, and my friend, and I didn't even tell my friend of that story, because I have quite a few paranormal stories, and I had never even told him of that story, so he didn't even know that it was associated with the piano. But it was funny because apparently that ghost was still following me around, but since I told it at my old house, I told it, hey, you're no longer welcome here. I'm banishing you. You need to stop the whistling. As soon as I did that once, it all stopped. You know, when that happened, I just wasn't too familiar with banishing. I think I also wasn't sure if I wanted to, since I was dating the guy at the time. I didn't want problems with this ghost. So I was in a predicament. I didn't really know what to do, you know. And then this is the funny part. I hadn't talked to that guy for, 5 or 6 years. And then that guy DMs me on Instagram the next day too.
Oh, wow. So it's like a whole
confirmation. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. This is just a thought, like, to have. Like, it's not even a question. Do you think it's possible that maybe what happened was you created an event? In other words, what if, like, when you're using a ghost finding app, or even one of these little doobly dabs, and you're sitting here, okay, do we have a spirit present? And it does its little thing that it does when it says that there might be. So you're playing with this thing and it lights up. So you start to believe, oh, there might be a spirit here. Is that creating an egregore then that will manifest? Is that what's happening? Or is the egregore causing the thing to happen, if you follow my meaning? So are we causing it, or is it happening and we're experiencing it? Which is the truth, and how can you tell? It's a very interesting thought to me, because when you're saying this story, and I'm like, okay, was it the ghost from the piano, or did you make it the ghost from the piano, if that makes sense? Like, I wonder.
Yeah,
I wonder.
I feel like it could go either way with people in general. I feel like in my situation, maybe even someone who's psychically powerful can have these certain words or ideas in their head. I wasn't even thinking about that ghost at the time, and I knew that ghost was obsessed with me. Plus, that guy is probably the most, like, powerful occultist / magician I've ever met. So he's very psychically aware. So I felt as though the ghost reported back to him, and then that's why he messaged me out of the blue. It was just really random, So I felt that was the confirmation that it was the ghost.
It could be. It's very possible. I mean, it's it's not my purview to say, but I would say it's something to think about. And have you done anything with it since? Have you tried to work with it, even like channel it or something since?
Not so much. I never was really into it, but I've worked with other ghosts and spirits. I actually have a spirited doll, and then sometimes I'll do necromancy at the cemetery. But I guess I should, because to be honest, he likes me, and he was nice. Besides, like, him annoying me for a while with the whistling, but other than that,
maybe give him like a musical instrument. Me, He needs to what? I'm sorry, I was talking over you.
Like he would do tasks for me, and then plus, since he was in the war, or I'm assuming, I could always channel that with him. Say I needed him to, take care of some spiritual warfare for me.
He might help. Sure, yeah. I mean, I would say maybe suggest, especially since your first encounter with him was with a piano, maybe consider, getting some kind of a musical instrument, maybe like a, I don't know, like a little flute or something, like a little recorder, something cheap that you can use. And while you're playing it, think about him and see what comes to your mind, like by channeling him. You know what I mean? See what you get. Could be fun.
That's true. And I'm planning on getting a keyboard anyway, because I'm going to be working on some music. So that would be awesome if I dedicated that to him. Maybe, see if he wanted to possess me and see if he could play something with it.
Or even just while you're playing, like when you're playing music is a great time to channel things, because you're off in La La Land listening to music, driving away, like driving. It's like driving a little bit. So maybe, maybe see if while you're playing, like you said, he can come through. Maybe he'll give you a tune, or maybe he'll tell you something. Maybe you'll have visions or something.
I don't know how to play a keyboard, or I forgot.
Well, just fuck around.
Awesome if he just took over, so that I would know it was him.
That would be definitely cool. Well,
Lilith does that actually when I get possessed by her. I don't know how to sing. I know how to scream. I was in a bunch of metal bands, but I don't know how to sing. But when I get possessed by her, I just become this amazing singer. So who knows?
yeah, screaming is like singing, but much more. Yeah.
Brutal.
More brutal, more metal. Flesh Priest, you've heard us go back and forth for a minute or two. Thoughts, please, if any, on any of what was said, or were you too busy administering my empire for me?
Man, you can't ask me for thoughts when my brain is all over the place doing the fucking admin shit in the background. Thoughts, screaming is dope as fuck. Now it's gonna be fucking crazy if you can suddenly just play keyboard like a boss out of nowhere.
I mean, that would be really cool. That would definitely be really cool. I mean, I've found that like I get into that mode, and as soon as I realize I'm doing it, it stops because I think I realize it, and I go, this can't be real, something like that, and I go, oh, I lost it, like, and I completely have to start over. But maybe, I mean, that'd be really cool if you did. In fact, you should record it every now and then, especially when you feel like you got it. Be like, please, Spirit, just hold on a minute. Let me see if I got you, and just record it and get it out in the open like that. That'd be really cool, especially for your channel. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I encourage people to try the spirit boxes, whether, I don't have an app on my phone, to be honest. I'm too paranoid. I feel as though a lot of those apps just look kind of sketchy.
Yeah,
but I want to
really
get a spirit box and try that.
They're
ever
not
since
expensive.
I had that experience.
Like this K2 was the more expensive one, but it's a traditional one. It was like $60 on Amazon. You could probably get them for around that. And I know spirit boxes, the most expensive ones that were reasonable that I saw was like 100 and change. They're not that bad. Like you can put it on especially for like what you're doing, you might be able to write it off as a business expense too. That's what I'm going to do eventually. So,
Definitely.
you could just throw it on there and be cool.
Has yours worked though?
I haven't. I just got it today. I just turned.
Right on.
Like literally, like when I clicked it on for that, it was like the 7th time I clicked it on since I got it. So I have no idea.
Maybe you want to try it on the air.
No, I want to try it on my own first. I'm too paranoid that it's going to work too good or not work at all, and I'll be all embarrassed and shit. No, I want to get it working privately first. No way, because that's the last thing I need is be like, Spirit, are you here? And then I look in the manual. We'll always blink when you do this. No, I don't want to. I haven't even looked in the manual yet.
It starts telling your deepest, darkest secrets.
Yeah, right. Oh God, like in Guardians of the Galaxy or something. Like, oh God, tell us, does Thorne wear red underwear? Oh shit.
No, you're wearing the elephant right now.
I am.
Remember?
I'm wearing the elephant. I am. Yeah, I always wear the elephant. That thing. Unfortunately, the trunk is too small, so I got to rip it. It's pretty embarrassing. But yeah, no, it's.
I wish I had that problem.
We got jokes. Well, it's not long. It's like a cheese wheel. We've had this conversation before. But
the almighty cheese wheel.
The mighty cheese wheel. Nikki, thank you for coming on again. I love hearing your voice. You're a lot of fun. Please come on next week, and maybe if we do that Saturday, you can come on. We got to figure maybe like some sidekick to have along. Maybe we'll have you come on too, and we can have you on Saturday again. So yeah.
All right, sounds awesome.
Thanks for the story, and thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye now.
Thanks for being here. And for all of you who are on a budget and you don't think if you can afford a spirit box, just Flesh Priest tip, you cannot get in any trouble for this. Just go into the city and find some beaten up old car, break the window, jump inside, hotwire that bitch to turn it on, and just start cranking the dial and see what the radio tells you. That's as good as any spirit box.
That is kind of how they work. I mean, they have the way it works is they cycle through the channels. If you have an old, or not even old radio with like the wheel, they have them where they seek. It's kind of like the seeking feature. That's basically how it works, and it pauses on each channel for a certain. It's basically a radio tuner is really all it is, and it will kind of hit, and it will stay for a moment. You'll catch a blurb of something, and beyond that, I haven't done as much research to see exactly how, but they think it has to do with like serendipity that it basically triggers, a word that is exactly the kind of answer you need, but it can still be limited to what's available. So if you ask a question like, what's the name of the killer? It might be like,
oh wait, it's getting a response. It says, buy more Ovaltine.
Yeah, so you might not get what you want. Yeah, exactly. But I'm gonna. So I got this little piece I have a thermometer already. I'm gonna get a spirit box at some point. And I think with all of that, the only thing I really would need is a full spectrum camera. That's the only thing I would really want. In addition, full spectrum cameras can be had for a couple hundred. Maybe for Christmas I'll ask for one, but I really got to get some results before I start fucking with that. Because I don't want to spend that much on it, even if I can write it off, just for something I'm going to try once or twice. And so I'm going to see what happens with this and the thermometer. And if I get anything that looks legit off of this and a thermometer, you bet your ass I'm going to use it. But there's one thing I'd like to say before I get into that. I don't want to get trained to use technology when I already do a good enough job with my own psychic senses. So I don't want to get to the point where they conflict, because there will be times where I'll get a message psychically and there won't be a response on the box. Does that mean that the one was true and the other wasn't? Like, which one do you believe then? A materialist would say the box. A spiritualist would say what's going on internally. I guess that makes me a spiritualist. I don't know. Like, I mean, think about that too. So don't rely. I think you said that too, Flesh Priest, when I talked about it. You said, so long as you're not, what was it? You said you're cool with it so long as you're not, I forget how you said it.
I wouldn't want to see you rely on it. Like, well, everything said that, it worked properly, but except for this little blinky blop didn't light up, so it must not have been real. Like, no, fuck that.
Right.
Fuck it.
Yeah, so you were on the same page as me then. So, yeah, because I was afraid you're coming from the other direction. No, I agree, because it's like if I'm sitting here and I'm getting all these signs and symbols in my head and the thing's not blinking, I can't ignore it. It's got to be when a spirit's manifesting somehow. That would be how I would treat it. So yeah, and you guys, if you're new to this channel, so let me do a quick shameless plug a little bit. If you guys are new to this channel, do me a favor. Make sure you like and subscribe this video. Check out my my what would you call it? My bibliography. Check out all my videos that I've got in my playlists. I've got live recorded rituals, guys. In fact, I have one that was banned off of YouTube because I dared to talk about the C-19 situation, channeling President Marbas, and that video aged very well. For those of you who saw it when I did it back in early February or whenever it was, who were like, I don't know, we'll see if Thorne's right. It aged very well. So watch that video, and a lot of things President Marbas said came to pass. It was a very good channeling, and it was very powerful, and I got fucked up from it, actually, when you watch it. So that's on BitChute to watch that. You can't watch that on YouTube. That's only on my BitChute account. So make sure you check it out there. But yes, I've got a lot of ritual videos so you guys can see the kinds of manifestations I've caught, the kind of weird things that have happened in ritual. Some of them are explainable, some are not. And, I'm perfectly open to both. Make sure that you just be respectful, because I'm not trying to tell you that every time the flame kicks up that a ghost did it or something. What I'm telling you is I'm doing magic and the flame does something weird, and I just take that as a sign that something happened and just leave it at that. I don't argue it. I allow it. So check that stuff out. So, okay, we got more people lined up, ready to be,
Oh, yes, we do.
The curse is right.
All right. Summoning.
We're doing it wrong. We should be using a mirror or something.
Hello.
I hear a voice. Who is that voice?
Please welcome the great
It is
and powerful Ceres Fallsong.
What's up, Ceres? You were on our show 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, but you've been on here before. What's up, Ceres? How you doing, brother?
Nothing much. No concept of time, so.
Yeah, time does not exist.
Time is an illusion.
Exactly. I actually saw something that's been boggling my mind since the 3 weeks that have passed is really the fact that I know you've been doing gate workings and everything, and years back I've actually have a plethora of gate experiences due to more haunting experiences more than anything.
So you had a haunting experience that led to what, gate walking, or go ahead and describe what you're talking about.
So years back, I didn't know this about my one family member, but he had committed suicide. Now, mind you, there's no viable claim, so this could be up in the air. But my Uncle John was a very spiritual man.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just call it that. And he committed suicide.
Okay.
Now, that being said, me growing up, I never really knew him. Now, years later, on the day that my grandmother died, which I had to watch her die before my very eyes, something broke in me. That I can't describe it. But ever since that day, we'll just say that I've been studying or called to gates more than anything,
Mm-hmm.
but not necessarily to like transverse them like the 9 demon gates, but this one felt different than a demon gate. We'll just put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Felt more internal.
Well, let's play with the word. So, what's a demon gate? You know, if you follow certain traditions, it's literally a way for the demon to come out of you, so that you can speak to your own inner demon. Other system, it's a way for the demon to manifest in your reality, right? But in a way, it's almost always sort of internal. Even evocation, like in the most strictest sense, has a very strong internal component because you kind of have to look at the things happening around you, and it's like, so is the gate something that the spirit travels through, or is it something you travel through? Which is it? You know, and I like to see it as I'm going, maybe not to them,
Actually,
but like
I have a unique way of I look at it.
okay,
So and this is very odd, but I view myself sitting in the center of like 8 cardinal directions. Now, to my north is a gate that represents my highest self,
mm-hmm.
my truest self, where it has all my potential. And to the south is where my path began. Now, off to the right was the more path that would lead more towards more selfish-based decisions, whereas the other path would lead to more selfless decisions. Both lead to the higher path, but how I use each, as I call it, gate that represents each facet along the way
Mm-hmm.
would empower different benefits and not so basically various pros and cons of each gate,
Mm-hmm.
if you would. But I always, in a sense, internally is the easier way I can describe as gates.
I mean, gates are really just I mean, you know, on the one hand they block things, but on the other hand they let things through, right? That's the whole point of a gate. So it gives you control, is what a gate does. A gate gives you control over how things mix on, you know, fundamentally. It's like saying, you know, what's a firearm other than a lead project, you know, a lead injector or something. It's you know, when you really rip
Just
the words
as
apart.
a firearm is useless without a proper wielder.
That too. Yeah, and a gate requires that there be something to go through it. It requires a gatekeeper. So there's so many different symbolic elements to the word gate. So when we're talking about like, oh, I'm using a gate to X, you know, like, you know, gate question mark profit, basically. So that but gates are kind of limited in that's what they're for, right? That's kind of what they do, and everything else is a posterior attribute of that thing of being a gate, what a gate does. So gate's a great word. I like the word gate. That's why I'm using it in that book, the paradigm gate principle, and it's a very important thing. So you're almost describing a self-created you know, gate ruling. Like you've kind of created I don't know what the right word would be, but you've kind of created a map, a network for outcomes based on these directions you're talking about, and that's an interesting.
Well, I can elaborate a little bit on it too.
Yeah, go ahead.
I call it the compass, the hunter's compass, if you would. Where to the north, and as most people who hunt would know, north is an ideal direction for any hunter to know. Where is north?
Mm-hmm.
Where is that? That is where you go based off of anything. That's basically on how any compass would actually work. So that would lead to the highest sense of self. With all other directions, that spiral based on where you are in proximity. Now, to the south, you have, which is the most. I've been walking away from this term slowly, but I still hold on to it. Mundane aspects,
mm-hmm.
if you would.
Mm-hmm.
Clinging to false truth. Well, I can't even say false truth. Just clinging onto something for some sort of meaning that quintessentially would be meaningless. But in a sense, it awakens something. Mm-hmm. It's basically a start, a seed, if you would.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting idea. I don't see my own gate stuff that I've been doing lately has been mainly the, you know, like what other people might call quantum leaping. I've got this gentleman who I do have to get back to. He's been offering to talk to me about some of those things, and I'm not sure I'm going to take him up on it simply because I'm so inundated with my own stuff. And he already said he'd understand that. So if you're listening, brother, I'll get back to you soon. I got to think it over a little bit more. And I've been a little rude because I tend to, when people message me, I kind of tune out a little bit because I'm a little introverted. So when I get a message, sometimes I got to roll it over my mouth a little bit too before I really respond to it. But, you know, my own working with gates has been primarily this this concept of figuring out, first of all, how to even use them, because it's like, yeah, we can make elaborate rituals on it, and that's one definite way to use them. But what are we doing when we do a ritual? Isn't the doing of the ritual also a gate? Like everything's a gate, really. It's like always,
yes.
So all these little moments between the one that we think we're in and the one we think we want to be in, all of those little moments that may be in between that, those are all little gates that get us to where we want to go. And I found that magic now, I'm starting to think magic, well, I'm not starting to think, I sort of know that magic is not a process of cause and effect. It's a process of appearing in the event that you want to have, one way or the other. And what magic does is, unlike what, like you and I both, we hate the word mundane for certain levels. Like I don't like the term muggles and mundanes and all that. I hate that crap.
It seems derogatory.
It's very, yeah, it's and it shouldn't be. Those things are as above, so below, right? It's the
exactly.
Why are we splitting them out, right? So
what is
what's that?
What is
right? What is that's yeah, exactly. So, but in that conversation, mundane would be the mundane steps you could take, and magic either shortcuts the process so that the mundane steps you take don't necessarily line up with the thing you want. So for good magical ritual to always work, you do a magical ritual and you have to do something mundane, you have to do something active to create the seed of change in reality for it to happen. Usually it's something in the direction that you want. So if you want a better job, you're going to have to start applying for a job, and the magic will make sure a better job materializes for you. But you can't as easily just sit around on your ass and have a job call you. Like that's not possible. So that creates a gate, doesn't it? Like it's kind of a gate there. So again, there's a difference between I want to pick this up and hold it, and those are little gates every moment between when I have it in my hand and when I want it in my hand. That's a sequence of infinite gates between there and back again. Now, magic sort of short circuits that a little bit, because what we require in our normal rational concept is I reach out and grab this and hold it. Well, magic might allow for any other way for that to happen other than what I think is rational. So in other words, if I want this to appear in my hand, I might do magic and wait and, realize, hey, honey, and my wife will walk over and she won't know why. She might just reach over, grab it, and put it in my hand for me. Is that magic result or not? I would think it is, because I might have done a ritual for it. But I'm using a bad example, but that's kind of what I'm getting at. So when we do ritualized magic,
might have some insight on that.
Okay.
So basically, and I go back to the hunter's compass because it's an easy, pliable way of putting it in comparison. But the lower you go on the gate, the less responsibility you take for your actions to achieve it. So in a sense, you in that situation, if you were sitting in the base of it and you'd go, okay, I'm gonna take responsibility and say this ritual or whatever I did worked because I willed it this way and she put it in my hand that way. You'd be more thinking towards the north gate than the southern gate. Whereas the pliability doesn't really matter as to where the gate is so much as how you applied it.
True. I mean, it's still happening, right? I mean, it's still happening. And don't mind me if I seem a little distracted. I'm looking at the chat right now. It seems like people are being maybe rude to one another. I'll have to review that in a minute. I don't know what that's all about. But anyway, I mean, again, there could be two different ways to look at that. It could be the higher, like that North Gate perspective. It could also just be a coincidence, right? I mean, so
yeah, exactly.
Again, is that cause and effect question? Are we causing an event or are we just experiencing that event? And that's really like a really tough thing. That's really a tough thing. So have you applied this thing at all? Have you applied this? Like, have you ritualized it? Like, what have you done by ritualizing it?
Well, I personally have never believed in ritualizing magic. Magic is a fiber of our life. So for me to ritualize it would mean I'm walking towards magic, whereas magic is just a part of the way I see it. As a result, I've found ways of more applying it in a more passive demeanor. For instance, if I train myself to constantly be aware of my surroundings and feel the energy shift around me and know what could occur and know how to avoid it. It's the training of awareness to lead to higher benefits, if you would.
Right.
New abilities learned, or even just some new wisdom found.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too. I mean, then there's always that thing of, when we're constantly seeking perfection, that means we're telling ourselves we're not perfect already, right? In the same token, if we're constantly seeking power, it's like we're always putting power one step ahead of us.
What's power to you?
What's that?
What is power to you?
The irony is, I think that power is already here. That's what I'm trying to get at, is that power is kind of a bad word. It's kind of like free will. What do you have power over if you're already that, right? So if you're already that, the idea of power is kind of moot. You're already that. So the power then doesn't become actual power in the quest for power. It becomes actually a rationalization for why you should be able to do for what you do, or an excuse for being able to do what you do, or just like with the word enlightenment. Enlightenment's a bad word in a way, because you don't achieve enlightenment. What you do is it's a reductive process that gets you to it. So power in a way is the same. You would actually have a reductive process. You remove the things that make you not comprehend that you already have that ability on some level. But then again, like I said, power over what? If it's yourself, that's kind of silly. Like, you can't. Does your hand have power over itself? That's kind of silly. Of course it doesn't. Your hand is your hand. It simply is. So we're also talking in the colloquial sense of power. So when we go seeking power, we're always putting power ahead of us where we can't ever have it. In order to recognize that we have it, we have to recognize we are it, right? That's what we are. We are power already. But there is
basically the Lebu Shah Ili.
I've never heard that term.
It's Akkadian for heart of gods.
Okay.
Heart of the gods.
Yeah.
I'm studying Akkadian.
Okay, I should. I'm not good with learning languages. I did some coding in the past, and that was about as far as I got with learning languages. Something about languages in me, like I'm good at English, and then when I try to do other ones, I just get frustrated too quick, and I don't pick them up. But
actually, you're a diviner. Are you a diviner?
To a degree, yeah. It really depends on how you use it. I mean, if you're talking about, do I channel things? Yeah, I do, but I've never had much luck doing other languages and stuff. So maybe there's something there I have to play with. Some of this stuff I'm still new at by comparison to a lot of people. It just may not be my thing. But how would you define it to see if I have done it? We'll put it that way. How would you define it to see if it's within my wheelhouse?
Based on the way your energy, because in my opinion, energy is the basis for a lot of things. Magic comes from energy, just it's applied in various different ways in comparison. Now, that being said, energy flows and always reveals the true nature about a person. So whether you lie or tell the truth, your energy will always tell the truth of what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that being said, based on, say, looking at you in that picture, your demeanor looks very calm. Now, that being said, looking at it from a psychological versus energy, there's not a lot of difference in body language, but there's certain principles that can be applied elsewhere. Now, that being said, looking at how, well, mind you, I'm used to talking with people. I work with a lot, so mind you, I sometimes trip over my words.
Mm-hmm.
But based on the aspect of what I see off of you, you've taken time to mature. You've struggled quite a bit over the time, and based on how time has gone on and on, you've somehow honed yourself. Not necessarily hammering, but you somehow just walked. You've gone. And when you've fallen, you've just gotten back up, and you've kept going over and over again until basically you've reached the point where you were.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what your energy tells, because it rolls. The ebbs of in your field, they roll. And versus people who have been hurt, it pops more. Because I per se don't see, but I see. I feel the energy of each person's field, and it just feels different. I feel based off of vibration.
Yeah. I mean, I do know what you mean. I don't necessarily put them in those terms. I do read people very, very well, but I don't do it in that, like, I might use those terms, though, to help communicate what I'm feeling off of someone for sure. But I do get what you're saying.
I'll be right back.
No, you're not allowed to leave. Stay.
You can't stop me.
Oh.
I'll be just
Thorne,
2 minutes.
stick in the flesh.
Yeah, but in all sincerity, it is like that. I mean, would I agree with your assessment? I wouldn't say it's completely wrong. I haven't really seen myself as someone who just, I guess you're right. Things don't defeat me, but I don't think it's because things hit me and I get back up again. I think a lot of the times I just kind of maybe disregard how bad they are. Maybe that's the better way to put it. It's and a lot of bad stuff, I guess, objectively has happened in my life. I mean, I've gone through a lot of abuse and a lot of crap growing up, but I've never, looked at myself and said, well, this sucks. And thought, well, I guess I have, but not in that, like, probably not in the way people might think when they hear what you said. It's not like, it's more like I feel like a zombie in the sense that, not in the brain dead way, but in the, whatever, and I just got to keep
roll with the blows.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess not always. There's definitely days. I mean, right? We're all human beings, but I guess I've never felt defeated, and when I have, the one or two times, I did get back up, although it might have taken a little while, And I would actually say I'm not used to defeat is actually maybe a better way to put it, because even though I've been thwarted, I've never felt defeated very often. And so when I do feel defeated, it hurts a lot. Like, I'm not as used to taking it like other people. I don't mean like when I lose a video game defeated. I mean like when something really crushes me. Like when I'm like, oh, I totally failed.
Like when you're trying to achieve something and no matter what you do, you just can't achieve it no matter what you do.
Sort of, but maybe not even that, but like that. Yeah, like I'll give you an example. Like I might be in an argument with somebody and be like, all my high horse, think I'm right about something, and be quoting things and be like, oh, see how right I am, and be like really confident. And then someone comes in with like a fact that I didn't get and I'm totally wrong. And then my whole world changes and I'm totally crushed because I identified with the argument like an idiot instead of just making an argument and making it separate from myself. That would be a defeat. And it gives me a soul crush. Like I lost a lot of face on that one. I feel like a total, and I don't laugh those off as easily as other people might. For me, that's like, I need a few days to lick my wounds over that. Whereas I think other people would be fine with it. But then if you said, well, Thorne, such and so got into a car accident and they're dead. Oh well, I guess it happens, right? So maybe I'm self-centered and that's why certain things don't influence me the way they should.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, to a point, it depends on why. Like there's benevolent arrogance, right? There's benevolent self-service. But I agree with that. But I would say I wonder how much of that is because I'm self-centered versus just, oblivious or ambivalent maybe, or whatever word it might be. So I don't think you're wrong. I would say, like, if you knew the full story of my life, you'd say, yeah, I think I pegged him pretty good when you hear like all this stuff. Is it the worst story you ever heard? Certainly not. There's people even people we talk to who've had it much worse. Like even though I complain about it and say, oh, I was abused and stuff. When I say that, I also say that, on the spectrum of abuse, the kind I had with the kind of character that I am, you can survive. Other people, though, like other members of my family are not okay. Like they're completely lost souls. They're completely broken. So what was different about me? Maybe it was that I was self-centered. Maybe I was a little narcissistic or something. And I just said, well, fuck you then. I hate you. And I don't know. Maybe I'm not that good at reading myself. Because it's kind of like this, and this might be a little controversial for some people in the chat, so please understand where I'm going with this. It's like when some people will tell you that they'll be accused of being racist, but they don't see themselves as being racist. If anything, they're more like they're just ignorant because race is not something they worry about, so therefore they're not racist in the usual sense like they think they're better than somebody. They just don't identify with the other people, so they don't worry about it, and so they may seem insensitive or uncaring. So in the same way, I might not, since I don't feel these things about myself the same way, might not be aware of them. I might not look at myself and say, I'm a fighter, I can pick myself up after hard shit. I don't know, because I never really maybe took myself to task and questioned that about myself. To me, it's kind of like, the idea of killing myself, right? Having a bad day, like, oh, my life's... I never really have that thought. It's never really, outside of like a morbid curiosity thought, I've never thought, oh, this sucks so much I can't go on. It's never, ever, when that does happen, I immediately go, like some people go fight or flight, I go fight almost every time. Like I don't mean like irrational fight. I mean, I'm always like, well, we're not letting this beat us. We're not letting this kill us. We're not letting it get me. So I don't know. I don't want to go too far into this. It's getting very narcissistic here, but it is interesting that you brought that up. So, and it definitely has a factor. But yeah.
Oh yeah, but the thing is, I like to at least bring up the fact that the pain that people get, for instance, when you look at the strength of a person, it's not identified by their strengths or their successes so much as it is their failures that brought them there. I feel like there's always a lesson in failure. Like I actually have a rule. If I ever lose at the first game of chess, I'm a very happy man.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I've never introspected on those things. For me, it's always been, I do what I do, and I don't really, as much as I talk about shadow work, I've never felt the urge to examine those things about it. Because if I said to you, like, if you saw my life up till now, and even now compared to people that do what I do, it's not like I'm some kind of roaring success. In fact, I've been poverty-stricken most of my life on some level, either like at the poverty level or just above where I could pay my bills. And a lot of that has always been self-created problems. And even when I see that that's the case, I don't always change it, right? In fact, if you knew my chart, you might laugh and say, well, that makes sense. I have so many trines, that it's like I have so many strengths and talents and gifts that I'm kind of lazy in a way, because it's like I don't have to try hard to as long as I'm following the right thing, it just happens for me. I'll
throw you a bone for one. I was actually born with Uranus and Neptune conjunct in retrograde in my first house.
Yeah, it sounds tough. So what'd you do with it?
Yeah. Oh, I've grown strong from it.
Yeah. Well, that's what they tell me. I don't have as many squares and things that would be, oppositional to each other. I have, 9 trines? So it's a lot. It's not, I can show it to you sometime. I have 9 trines. It's a little ridiculous.
I'd be more than happy to see it because that interests me a lot.
I got it here somewhere. I don't have the picture of it, but I got it written down. Let's see.
Oh, we can discuss it at any time.
Well, I'll show you real quick. I have it right here.
Oh, that works.
Let's see. Jupiter trine, ascendant, Sun trine, Saturn, North Node trine, Mercury trine, Neptune, Mars trine, Uranus, Venus trine, Neptune, Mars trine, MC. What should we call it? The median, whatever. Moon trine, Uranus, Sun trine, Neptune, and only a couple of squares. So, that's been. Was that 9? I didn't count them again. Let's see. I know it's 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, I don't know if I listed them all right. So there's a lot of them, and when I first read that, like someone who's got a lot of trines, I go, look how badass I am. I'm good at all these things. And then someone was like, well, that actually means you haven't been challenged much. And I'm like, yeah, but have you seen my life? So I don't know, dude. I like to say this because I've always admired having a challenge myself. If you're ever up for a challenge, I'm always happy to have a stimulating conversation. Sure, I mean we could do that sometime, but yeah, I mean it's one of those things. Like there's definitely areas that I don't have knowledge about because obviously my forte is the non-dualism and the higher metaphysical concepts. The theurgy and the thaumaturgy stuff I'm relatively new at, and it's interesting because the background in metaphysics make those things easier, I think, to navigate from the outside coming in than someone who starts with the occult and then learns the metaphysics from the occult. So maybe I'm lucky that way. Maybe that's why what I say resonates well, and then I have people who really, maybe they got both or they know one so much better than me, and I've got to shut up and listen to them and be like, well, what does this mean? What does that mean? What does it mean when we're talking about trines and squares and all this stuff, sextuples and all this? What does that mean? Because it's not my forte. So that's why I value people who do know that stuff coming on and talking about it and having a good time, challenging me with stuff I don't know to really make it interesting. So I appreciate that, man.
Oh, of course. And honestly, I've always had the philosophy, honestly, growing up, there's one rule that I don't see anymore, and that's treat others how you prefer to be treated yourself. I like to challenge people.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting because I'm the. So I guess then in a way I have to be honest. I don't love challenges because I'm more accommodating for people. You know, when I encounter people, I feel like to aggressively challenge them is not my place. I rather challenge myself to what I believe, and then when I talk to other people, I try to validate at least their sincerity, if nothing else. I don't like to be like I've always been told I'm not confrontational. I'm not very confrontational. You know, I do not take shit, but I'm not confrontational. I don't go looking to challenge people, and maybe that is a difference between us. I tend to be very much like, that's cool. You believe what you believe. I believe what I believe. You know, I will also say that growing up, I don't like being taught things. I'm autodidactic. I don't respond well to lessons from others from outside.
You learn by osmosis.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Sometimes I don't even know where I learn it because I just absorb, you know, pop culture. I'll read something somewhere. I'll be like, I don't know where I got this from, but I got it from somewhere. So yeah, that's not a wrong way to put it for sure. Yeah.
That sounds like me growing up 10 years under a rock, pretty much, and learning my ways.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, and if you look at the world, I mean, if it is a fractal pattern, you know, if you study any part of the world enough, you might be able to find the same things, you know, under different rocks, you know, like.
I've found one thing that has actually led me down this rabbit hole, and I've told you, I didn't learn from books. I actually learned through a lot of trial and error.
Mm-hmm.
Those who and mind you, I'm not saying it's bad to learn from books.
No.
What I'm saying is, those who over-relied on it and made it their new dogma began limiting and birdcaging their mind.
Sure.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah. I find that
moderation
a lot,
is key.
Especially now, you know, and maybe that's another secret to why I have some popularity or something, is because, like you, I might have now a growing collection of books that would probably pale in comparison to some of the people that I'm in quote unquote competition with. Though I don't see it as a competition. I just see it as like we're all doing the same thing. I might not be very learned, and I might only skim these books for occasional gnosis and stuff. In fact, on the Discord server, I don't know if you're there or if you use Discord, someone posted something from a guy I've heard of before, but I barely knew what he was, Poke Runyon. And they posted a video from Poke Runyon. I'm like, all right, let me see who this guy is. Let me see what he's about. And I'm watching this, and I'm like, oh, shit. A lot of what he's saying is stuff that I wrote in Become the Maelstrom. Not exactly, but I can see why someone might say, oh, you know, Thorne's not original at all. He's complete, like you, from trial.
Who is original in this day and age?
True, very true. But I don't have a lineage of like, you know, like someone would say, well, this person was taught by such and so, or they stole it from. I don't have much of a lineage there. You know, the closest I could say is, and I always tell people where that's Alan Watts, a little bit of Terence McKenna, a little bit of Ragnar Redbeard. Only recently have I looked into, you know, even LaVey even, or any of this stuff. A lot of this stuff just comes from the ether, shall we say, like you said, through osmosis, and from those couple of handful of people I'm willing to give credit to. And, you know, that's interesting to me. I'm not saying that to like toot my own horn because it sounds that way, but I'm not. I'm mystified by it. I get shocked by it all the time. I'm constantly, it's humbling and it's terrifying at the same time, because it's more validating to me to have these experiences organically like this, and to be validated by people that I've never knew existed but are respected, or, you know, people say that they're onto something or whatever, and they go, wow, we share things. So I'm like in your boat in that sense, where there was trial and error, but it wasn't trial and error. It was more like brute force. Like I made the square peg fit in a round hole, and I don't know how I did it, you know, and I'm usually opposed to that. I'm usually of the mentality of taking the easiest way, like the Zen way, like the don't fight.
That's the way of energy, taking the path of least resistance.
Yeah, that's usually my way of doing everything. In fact, if you study my magic, the way I do things, I don't try to bend reality. I try to find the currents of reality and then work within them. So if I wanted something to happen, even in a national way or a global way, I don't try to, well, it looks like such and so is about to lose, I better fix it with magic. No, I look for the current that goes in the direction I want, and I either insert myself into it or something. So I do use the idea that I did it the brute force way is kind of weird, and it's not my usual mentality. Usually I do try to find the easiest way out, because I hate, you know, maybe, like I said, maybe I don't like a challenge. You can ask people, when I play a hard video game, with some exceptions, I put that shit on easy mode, and I'll cheat if I have to. I really don't care. I just want to see the story, right? So I'm not into being challenged by a video game or certain things. But I guess other things I am. Maybe there's things, you know, psychology is very challenging, and I'm into psychology, you know, very much. So, yeah. So any parting comments or thoughts before we move on to the next person of interest?
I don't know. Either way, if you ever wish to discuss anything further, I'm well versed on a plethora of things. I like to dabble my hands in here and there in this. So if you ever wish to chat,
sure. I mean, I usually wall myself up most of the time, except for when I do these public outings due to my introversion. But I might take you up on that at some point. If I don't feel in any way slighted. It's nothing like a personal thing. So it's one of those things where it's like I like to make my pontifications once a week, and then I hide in the Vatican the rest of the time, and I just kind of do what I do. And it's, you know, it is
that's the same for both of us.
Yeah. We're like, as outgoing as I am in the thing. If you saw, I like going to clubs and bars, but I like sitting in the corner with 2 or 3 people that I can talk to, and I don't like to be like, I don't want the whole crew accessing me all the time. It's like a weird feeling where it's like I may love somebody and they'll be like, let's hang out. So I'll be like, I don't know. You know? And
I'm highly introverted. I live under a rock and go to work 50 plus hours a week. I'm like, do you want to hang out today? Yeah. I just got off of a 10-hour shift. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go to sleep.
The worst thing about being
introverted. I got
introverted.
plans with myself.
Yeah, I have plans with myself. The worst thing about introverted, extroverted like me, because I'm almost balanced, but I lean into introversion, is I do like to get out and I do like to socialize. I do like it, but it's like I have to do it on my terms, and you either have to drag me out by like the back of my neck. You're like, come on, Thorne, we're going to a club. Once I get there, I have a great time, but it's getting me to like, you know, I don't know, man. I kind of feel like fuck you all, you know. So, but then there's some people that are way more like I got to be like, come on, let's get out of the house for a change, you know. It's really weird, dude. So again, that's all I'm saying is, especially since it's, you know, social media and everything these days, I do tend to turtle up a little bit, and don't ever think anybody who messages me all the time and I don't get back to you, it's not personal, man. It's really never like that. I got to make time for me, and it's harder and harder these days. I got to say, it's kind of ironic that I took this path, considering all things. So
I find it ironic, but it's harder to find an intellectual conversation in this day and age, from what I've learned. But
it is,
honestly, at the end of the day, my door's always open in case you ever wish to have a challenge or extra insight on something.
Sure.
And hell, I'm happy to learn a thing or two, because I love learning.
Well, so long as challenges are made in that respectful, constructive way, it's never a problem with me. So anytime, man, come on the show and point out a difference of opinion, or try this if you've never tried it before, or whatever. And, you know, you're welcome. Call in anytime, brother. I know it's like different hours for you, but welcome. You can always show up, man.
And then, so one last piece of advice for your gate.
Sure.
Gates are usually powered by a main conduit system. Mm-hmm. So basically, so long as the conduit can handle the main flow of the energy, you might find you'll have better success.
Yeah, it's like amperage and volts and all that. You can only have so much change at once. You can't cause a great giant change with a tiny little, although you can, but I mean, it doesn't happen at once. It takes time. Time is and time is an illusion, right? So yeah, it's a lot of paradoxes going on here.
Time. One step in front of the other.
Yeah, right. You just got to keep doing one thing at a time. Yeah. All right, brother. So I'll talk to you probably next week, maybe, and yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks for coming on, dude.
Yeah, fucking thanks for being here, man.
And Flesh Priest is all changing.
Very well, Saris.
Oh, I go to fix you, dude, and you blink right to the right size. I hate when it does that.
Well, that's magic. I did that myself.
Are we talking about penis length or something? Because I'm just kidding. I'm reaching. We should call it the JD Temple hour, because we're getting to JD Temple times here where I'm getting kind of goofy. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we hit the weird part of the stream really early, but it just didn't register with me. But yeah, I don't think we've gotten to that point yet. Speaking of
sure?
JD, I I don't think I haven't heard from him in a while. I want him to be on again.
I do. I
I
think
like
he's
that
in
guy.
Utah right now. I'm pretty sure that's what's up, and he's probably just off, like off the reservation right now. He's probably just like, fuck you all. Maybe he is like, with all the stuff going on in the world or whatever, maybe he's kind of, just in his sanctuary right now, and I don't blame him, but knowing him, he'll be back. And I texted him a few times and I emailed him. I still haven't heard back, so I don't think he's mad at me though, because everyone's telling me the same thing. So I think he's either on his Utah trip or he's just kind of like, just out there right now. And JD needs his time too, man. Like, it's the same thing,
Like we were just saying.
Yeah. And I love the dude. And if he is listening right now, JD, come back, brother. We miss you. We love you. And, we definitely do. Like, like I told Sarah, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me and my naming? I just looked at it. I said it before. To the gentleman who was just on, just like I said to him. Saris, thank you. I'm thinking Sarith, and I'm like, no, it's Saris. I'm bad with names, by the way. That's another. I read energy, not names. I don't remember people's names. How long does it take me to get your name?
Yeah, that took a little while.
It did, and I still don't get it right. No, so yeah, like that. It's even with JD, like, I'm not always on top of him, like I was for like the first couple days, because like he's a new friend or whatever. I'm like, what do you want to do now? You want to hang out? And like, give it a week, and I'll kind of like, okay, we'll talk some other time, whenever you want. And I get like that with people, and so he might be in that mood too. So I don't know. I'll text him again tonight. We'll see if we can get him back.
Okay, really quick. I'm not gonna forget this one. So we actually had a super chat during the call, and I want to get to it now. Paranormal SOMD asks, so curious.
Yes, he is. Okay.
So curious, if you have many conjured items or blessed items by gods, do you even need to banish your space if they fill up the room?
Okay. So there's actually an excellent channel that I like. He just did a video on this stuff, and it pretty much coincides with most of what I have to say about it. He's a little bit more dogmatic about it than I am, but I really appreciate his channel. It's Damien Eccles, if you're not familiar with him. He just did a video about energy work, banishment, and healing, I think was the title of it. He does an excellent conversation about using lesser banishment ritual. So when we're talking about all of these tools and materials and stuff and the energies that they bring and maintain, do you have to banish and clear and stuff? I almost never, and I mean that, I almost never do any sort of banishings, because for me, banishings are generally a thing that's done when you feel either such a chaotic overflow, like you've completely lost control, or an emotional, problem, something along those lines. That's when I'll resort to a banishment. I use what I call the align and clear, which is a little bit different. It's something I created for my own work and I've shared with people. It is not meant to replace completely the LBRP or anything like it. And personally, I wouldn't use the LBRP as written anyway. So if we're talking about banishment, I wouldn't use I wouldn't use, certainly not the names of the different spirits that it uses. I would, since I barely even recognize the authority of a spirit besides myself in the first place. So I kind of have issue with it right off the bat. Like, I don't go Tetragrammaton, Yahweh, the angels, none of that stuff. They don't mean anything to me. They're just, even if they're real beings, they don't mean that to me. That's not the role they serve in my life. So what spirits would I use instead? I mean, you could use goetic spirits if you prefer them, or other pagan gods. You could do that. But even that doesn't feel right to me. So I generally don't perform anything like that. I have my own align and clear method, which generally stands in its place. And the intention is different. When I do it, I don't visualize destroying anything or pushing anything out. It's more along the lines of anything that doesn't serve me leaves, anything that does is permitted. And so therefore, it's a little bit safer to do around my ritual space, because I like to collect ritual energy. I like to collect that force and that power. If I charge an object, I don't want it overwritten by some banishing ritual that clears it. And it doesn't mean it always will, by the way. A lot of people get a little kind of nervous about that stuff. And they don't necessarily want to overwrite their work, right? They want to whatever. So they'll be like, well, I don't want to do a banishing because that might overwrite it. What about other people's magical tools in that environment? Will it overwrite them? I've often been curious about that. Me personally, I've never, if I create a magical tool, I think you could banish it. But at the same time, if it's my magical tool and I don't give you permission to do that, whose authority reigns in that situation, right? So there's definitely a difference. So when we're talking about things in that context, if you have these consecrated items versus charged items, in Damien Eccles' description, consecration is different than charging. Consecration has a different meaning to him, and so the intent is different, and so therefore it doesn't get banished because it is meant to be used differently. So it's less of a concern. Again, I am not a master of banishing because I don't generally banish. It's not my way. It's not the way I like to do things. I prefer, maybe I'm just a slob. I really don't do anything until it gets till I feel an overwhelming presence, and then I might do something. But what I'm more inclined to do is create servitors which will go around and align things for me when I need it. Or I'll do a sanctuary type, ritual, and anything on the outside, gets treated as stuff that's got to be repaired or dealt with, and servitors might deal with it, or I ignore it and I just kind of put it away. Not always the best thing, though, by the way. It's not always the right answer. So, again, not a banishing guy. I prefer the natural energies of my environment, good or bad. In fact, to me, a chaotic environment where there's poltergeists and weird shit happening sometimes is validating and useful. So I leave it, and I go, no, I want a haunted house, right? I want that. Like, I don't want a house that's all balanced. Give me that spooky house. Give me that fucking place. Give me the place that makes people feel uncomfortable. Give me those weird experiences. I want them. But if I'm starting to notice like we're having a lot of fights in the house, or there's a lot of just negative emotions, then what I will do is I'll try to repurpose that negativity through something. I'll use like obsidian and use obsidian as an analog for like an air freshener, and I will try to pass energy through that. But you can't always do that because sometimes that negativity is coming from a person and they want to be unhappy. You can't fix it, right? It's not always your job. So there's a lot of ways to approach it. I hope I'm actually making a proper answer. I don't know if I let me see if he's responding here. Let's see. Samdi, where are you, brother?
I don't think they said anything specifically about that.
Yeah, I don't think
I
so.
see them responding to a few things in chat.
Yeah, let me know, Samdi, if I answered your question well enough with that.
And while we're waiting on Samdi to get back to us, and before we get to the next guest, I want to give a quick shout out to somebody I know is watching right now. So, hi, Ashley.
Who's Ashley?
I was messaging her about old friend from California because I know she's got some ooky, spooky stories to share. And so I'm going to try to get her on when we do that show. And she's actually got a question for you, Mr. DH.
Oh, no. Screw off. No, go ahead. What?
Who writes horoscopes?
Probably.
Or natal charts, too.
I don't know. That's not my thing. I don't use them. I don't bother with that. If we're going to talk about astrology a little bit, instead of seeing it as cause and effect, like the stars control you or anything like that, think of it more like a mirror. And the planets don't influence you. Rather, as above, so below, you're mirrors of each other. So the things that you see happening in the one will not cause things in the other. It's actually meant to be things that you are supposed to think about or observe. So to put it another way, if you've got a situation, Mars is in Aries or something, you're like, we're in a time of conflict and fighting, or Mercury's in retrograde. Mercury in retrograde is not causing calamities of conversation and communication so much as you are more aware of it. You are more aware of miscommunication at the time. And some people don't have a problem with it. Like generally, Mercury in retrograde, I do well. I feel like I'm suddenly just in a better place. I can talk better than everybody else around me. I feel cool. Maybe that's just because I'm not, feeling it weird. So I don't think it's a cause at all, but I do observe it. I do notice it in people around me. Oh, all these people are fighting. All these people are arguing. All these people are having problems. Their computers aren't working. They can't get their phones to work or something. All these communication issues. Is that, so what's really happening? Am I noticing it, or is it being caused? And there's different takes on it. And I definitely appreciate those different takes because they're useful. But me personally, I don't worry about those things like horoscopes and charts and all that. If you want to get a free, there's a place, let me see if I can find it real quick. There's a place that I got my full chart done for free. It doesn't give you the explanations. It tells you the details though. Let's see, give me a second. Yeah, here we go. Astrocharts.com. You just put in your information and it'll pop out a beautiful little chart for you, and then you can look up what everything means on your own. If you want to pay them, they'll give you a full chart if you want. And there's definitely people that are good at that. I don't use those services, but the one I'm most familiar with, it would be like Bill Duvendak. I hear he's excellent at doing charts and all that stuff, I believe. He's definitely very good at astrology. He's very well learned. I respect him a lot for that. I've never talked to him. I've always meant to get him on my show. He's been agreeable to it, but I've never really done it. So maybe I'll bother him this week and see if he wants to come on. But yeah, he's supposedly a very good person to go to for that if you're curious. So I don't know if that answers your friend's question, Flesh Priest.
We've got like a growing backlog of people that we need to get on the show.
Are they waiting in the Skype?
Oh,
I see what you mean now.
Yes,
no,
there's also like 3 people we can get to on Skype, but also just like guests that would be fucking bitching to get on this show.
Gotcha. And Lamia made a good comment. If there are tech issues during Mercury retrograde, then Mercury must always be in retrograde for me because it's in my universe. Good comment. Yeah, I like saying Mercury in Gatorade. I don't know who came up with that. I saw somebody say it. Now it's mine. I use it all the time. So I stole that meme, guys. Sorry.
H2O.
I love that. I love it because it kind of makes sense. Like you're miscommunicating what it means. Mercury and Gatorade. It's like a perfect meme. It writes itself. I don't know who came up with that, but I owe you at least a couple of laughs. That was a good one. Yeah. So, and don't forget, guys, everything that's going on in the world right now. Look around you and look at all the beautiful things going on in the heavens. That have, as I said to Ye Quetting about a month ago when I was watching the stars parading across the sky. The planets are screaming right now. They're bright. They're in your fucking face. And they're just like, look at me, motherfucker. And all this fucking shit's going down in the world. Come on. You can't. It's not cause and effect, but you are meant to notice. That's what's going on. You are noticing these harmonics and disharmonics right now. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a paradigm shift. That's when they happen. And it's going to hurt more before it's over, by the way. Just so you know. Like I said earlier, and when we first started talking, remember when I was sitting here guarding a thing of toilet paper? I got 50 rolls of toilet paper on order. They're going to be here this week because I have a feeling stuff might get a little bit weird in the next 3 months. That's all I'm going to say. I don't know for sure, but might as well have several months worth of toilet paper in the back.
I think that's rather stupid. I got myself a squirt bottle, and I've got the bidet.
Hey, why not, right?
Don't need no toilet paper where I'm going.
Well, I mean, I feel like you got to have something there to wipe it up because, I mean, at some point, it's going to splatter all over if you just wash them off. And let's be honest. Like
I got a hairdryer.
Let's be honest. Sometimes it's brutal down there and just washing it off. Like you need soap and water and a shower. It's not going to be enough. You need some paper. Anyway, now that we all know too much about each other's asses. Who we got?
There was the weird part.
Who we got lined up for our stream tonight?
Somebody familiar. Somebody who rhymes with Jennifer Tatza.
Okay, let's bring her on. She's gonna kick me in the head. I'm just kidding. We love Jennifer Tatza. Is she still there? Because I don't see her in the chat anymore. Hopefully she's still awake. Jen, come to us, Jen. Tell us about.
Oh, and Paranormal Somdi did say that it was a good answer.
Okay, cool.
I'm here, and you can put me on video. So
you want some video? Let's put some video. All right, where are you? I have to find you again. Give me a second. I have to make you work. You have to make me work.
Yeah, I thought that my OBS setup for what I do on the stream is complicated, but I don't envy what you have to do. I'm looking at it and just, ugh.
It's not bad, dude. No. It's not bad. Hi, Jen.
Hi. Sorry, I just had to angle the camera so you see the clean part of my kitchen.
One of these days, like maybe like my last stream, I'll turn the camera down. You guys can see what it really looks like here.
Oh yeah, just like boxes and stuff over there that have never. I just keep adding to the piles, and one day the cat's just gonna knock everything over, and it's gonna be chaos.
I think all three of us just have our cameras angled in the perfect position to not show off the everything else, because Lord, I have
there's
that.
piles of stuff here and over there, and it's a hot mess.
Like, not all of us live in big, beautiful mansions yet. But when that does happen, it will be very different. But for now, you guys see a very narrow slice of my house. So...
Yeah, I either do my videos in my bedroom or here.
Well, you got a better excuse than me. You're in the city. I'm in the suburbs, but I have a small cottage. So I guess I got an excuse, but
yeah.
I think you got a better excuse. Nobody expects somebody living in the city to have a lot of space to do stuff. So you got to make
a fair amount of space for like one person, but yeah, it's about 1,300 square feet, and I have a basement as well. So
yeah, that's not bad. That's really not. Like, my whole house is smaller than yours. Then I have 800 square feet. So yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I don't get a basement or anything. Like, nothing. Just
yeah. I have a full basement and stuff, which. A part of the reason my house is a mess is because my HVAC system leaked in August and flooded the basement, and I had to have all the flooring torn up, which meant I had to kind of disperse all the crap in the basement to various parts of the house.
Okay, yeah.
And stuff, so there is...
Nothing like a good old Pennsylvania flood. I've heard Pennsylvania gets more floods than I do in the basement. Something about the way...
Yeah, surprisingly, this wasn't from normal basement flooding. This was from the HVAC system.
Just from that, just puddled it up? Okay. Yeah, I was looking at a house.
It more than puddled it up, but I had to have all the flooring torn out. So I'm currently waiting for my contractor's order for the tiles and all that to be done.
There's nothing like water damage. We had an air conditioner do that, like just like you said, like an HVAC. And we had one of those ones that didn't go out the window because we couldn't get one at the time. My mom had gotten this one that was you put I guess it was a vent out the window, like a tube, and you had to put a catch pan, and the catch pan overflowed. And it fucking soaked the floor, and the floor buckled. Like, all the boards just buckled up. Oh, man, that was bad. We moved out. We don't even know if they fixed it. But, yeah. I don't know. We were renting, so we didn't get our deposit back. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
So what's up?
So I have two things. So the first one I want to talk about involves shadow people.
I love them.
So I was reading a book today. I don't know if you've read it. It's Demons, the Devil, and Fallen Angels.
Nope. Never even heard of it.
I brought it down so I could remember the title.
Okay, good. Maybe I'll look it up.
It's decent. But one of the things that where I got to, they're kind of talking about like cryptids and various sort of, I don't know if I want to say mythological sort of things, but they brought up. They did go into shadow people a little bit in the book, but one of the things they were talking about that. And I was like, okay, I want to bring this up because they were talking about sort of viral and what they call fake lore things like Slender Man. They mentioned the Hat Man and things like that, of things that were kind of generated by, like through the creepypasta kind of circuit and things like that. But I know you've talked about the Hat Man, and they have that kind of in the fake lore sort of area.
What my challenge to them would be to prove the other lore originated from something valid versus somebody feeling it too. I think it's kind of stupid to be like, oh, this is fake and this is real when it comes to spiritual stuff like that, because at the end of the day, everything that we experience that we think of as traditionally real, the gods and stuff, they're all creations of the cultures that believed in them on some level. They all personified, I do believe the consciousness behind it was real. So I do believe a spiritual entity exists that we call Baal, Baal Hadad. But Baal Hadad is just a vessel that consciousness fills.
Right.
So the Hat Man, in a similar sense, the shadow people have, and I wrote in my own book, I don't know if you read my book yet. But
not yet.
Okay. In that book, I specifically point out that you cannot go past a certain date and find them specifically talked about. We will talk about shadows in, people have seen, they would call them demons perhaps in the past, or ghosts in the past, or nightmares, or whatever you would call them. So the same thing applies to demons too, because to a Christian, anything that's not, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus is a demon. So that's automatically kind of like a problem for me. So
and then you talk about like egregores and tulpas and things like that are kind of created by the groupthink kind of,
Well, there's
if enough
also
people are thinking about it, it kind of gives it its own life form.
Yeah, I think there's kind of like, again, there tends to be a dualistic thinking on people that people get, like because God, today everybody has like, I'm in this camp or this camp, and they don't look at the nuance of anything in between.
Right.
I try, but fuck it, I can't promise I do it every time either. So since we're also twisted up this way, I think you get people who fall into, yes, they're real literal gods, theist types. You get people saying nothing exists, they're all bullshit, and then you get people who think they're egregores and they don't exist as gods or blah blah blah. Well, I'm sort of a blend of those a little bit, in that I think a real archetypal consciousness, in other words, an aspect of the collective conscious, if you will, is self-aware, and then inhabits the egregores that we create in our religions and our cultural metaphors. So for example, Superman, right? Give it 200 or 300 years, and people are already summoning Superman in their rituals. I promise you got nerds doing it. I guarantee you got fedora tipping motherfuckers that will conjure Superman. Guaranteed.
That's like one of the main fucking examples with evocation in every fucking chaos magic book I've read.
Right.
Like,
I've never read one, so I'll take it from you. Yeah, you could. So what are you conjuring when you're doing that? You know? And I would say to the one group of people, oh, you're conjuring the egregore because Superman did not exist. But doesn't he? Or Wonder Woman or any of these guys? We just, pick one. What's that?
Voltron,
right. So what is their archetype? What is the archetype that we're talking about?
Right.
And archetypes are nested. So you have the archetype of the hero. Well, within hero, there's a whole bunch of other kinds of hero. So they manifest and they fill these egregoric containers, and they use them like puppet masks. And I challenge people, in not to borrow Sarah's word from before, I challenge people to recognize themselves as an egregore, and they are a container for their divine source as well. So you're an archetype, and you're a manifestation of an archetype, and you've conjured for yourself this egregore that fits inside this meat puppet that you think you are. So it's not that different.
Don't tell anyone I'm naturally a blonde.
Really? I thought that just grew like that. Well, just like me.
Black hair for like 15 years, well, actually longer than that, off and on since about 1993. So.
Well, that's like me. Like, I'm naturally bald on the sides. I actually have to pluck hair in when I want it to grow. No, I have to shave my head, guys. I have a full head of hair. But yeah, no, that's funny. So so go on. So what do you think? Do you think that it's something else? What do you think about that? What's your perspective?
The nuanced side of things, and this goes a little bit into what we were talking about with the video that I made and stuff, is kind of look, and what I appreciate about you and a lot of the videos is you've kind of provoked me to like look at a lot of things in a more nuanced sense, and ask more questions and look outside, my little kind of.
It's tough. I have trouble with it too. So don't ever think that I'm like, oh, you should look outside your comfort.
Like, honestly, like I did not, when I started coming, full force into the left-hand path thing, I'm like, why is everyone here libertarians? What's up with that? Because like most of my experiences in the city with libertarians were like, you're an asshole, click delete.
Which is really weird because I've never had those. Well, I think, you do come from a different side of the political tracks from me on a lot of levels.
Yeah. Maybe it was just this particular one that I'm thinking of, but I was just like, okay, if that's what libertarianism is about, fuck that.
I think a lot of it is also, so libertarianism as a philosophy is pretty much Luciferianism. I don't see much difference.
Yeah, I had a really good conversation about it with Elric. I was like, okay, explain all this libertarian stuff to me. And I forget which live stream we were on where I was talking about the gun lobby, and you guys were like, what gun lobby is this that you are speaking of?
Well, there's also, don't forget.
I was like, well, the NRA, of course. Isn't that the gun lobby?
Yeah, don't
And
forget there's a
gun
lot of
owners hate the NRA.
we do in a lot of ways because we look at them and go, "You're taking our money, and what do you ever do?" You know.
Yeah.
And then to a
Because he sent me
leftist,
like a little kind of outline of like all the gun laws that have changed because of them that were against gun owners.
that they permitted,
like,
right? That they said,
yeah,
well, we won't let
wow.
like Trump's bump stock ban. I got so pissed at that. I'm like, bump stocks didn't cause the shooting, you fuck faces. That has nothing to do
Yeah.
with it. So
Yeah.
that pisses me
So,
off.
and I also learned that gun laws vary from state to state.
Sure do. Yeah, like New York, you can have a lot more guns than I can have. Yeah,
Yeah,
I get so
apparently.
pissed. Yeah, oh, a whole lot more, and you don't have to go through the hoops I have to go through. Even in Philly, you don't. So it's
Yeah, he showed me like the modified AR-15 thing of like, this is what you can have in New York.
Mhm.
I'm like, how the hell do you even? What's the point of that?
it's sad. It's very sad. Well,
It's like it's got a chastity belt on it.
it's yes, and well, they did. We have the New York safe guns. We call them safe guns. They're trash. I would get one just to fucking break it. Like as soon as I left the state, I'd probably put some thermite under it and make it blow up. But no,
Yeah.
it's despicable. And this is what happens. I think. And you and I are probably never going to agree on everything, obviously. But I think that at the end of the day, a lot of what happens is people get talked into these boxes because they have
And we
issues.
don't have to agree on everything.
No.
But mutual respect
Yes.
is key.
Yeah, that is key. It is absolutely a big piece of it. But what I'm getting to is that respect gets undermined because we have our, I don't know, you could call them sacred cows, but maybe that's not the right word. We have our issues that matter to our identity, right? Like for me, Second Amendment's one of them. So like you're cool with the Second Amendment, so I give you a pass on things that we might not agree with because at least you're not going to try to disarm me. So I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
you can have a difference and we can be cool because it's like,
I see how crazy the world is.
and you want to be able to protect yourself. I don't blame you.
And once Elric, we had like maybe a 4-hour conversation about this, and once he kind of explained to me all of this and why, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
this finally makes sense to me now.
So, but you have a lot of people that, because things have become inflamed because of the propagandizing and the anger,
Yeah.
they target each other in dehumanizing ways, we'll say.
Right.
So,
it's a little bit in the follow-up video I talk about is like the divisiveness.
I'll have to watch that because I only saw the first one and I haven't had a chance to watch the other one. But
Yeah,
my first thought when I
recorded
watched
like,
it,
at like 4 a.m. or something, and I uploaded it
and
yesterday.
if you're in a bad mood, your videos are going to come out a different way too. Of course, you're going to be focusing on one thing versus then maybe what you really want. Like me, I like to be.
When I was thinking about it with the fact, the opinion versus fact thing, and I probably put that in. Maybe I think I mentioned that in when I was talking about conspiracy theories, but really kind of what I was talking about, like when I'm talking about opinion versus fact is actual arguments I've had, like say people like, no, gender is the genitalia you are born with.
Yeah. But then again,
going, this is fact.
Yeah,
So,
it's also a fact in a certain way of seeing
all
things.
Other scientific evidence that gender is in the mind.
Right, and like I'm very open to a lot. I don't really care. Like you can ask Desmond, even if I am, trad when it comes to those things in a lot of ways, I don't.
Yeah, do I understand all of it? No, but I accept it.
Exactly. Like if like when I have a friend that says address me as she, why should I care? I was in a goth club hanging out with trannies all day long. Cool. They're some of the favorite people I ever hung out with. I can't remember her name, Missy something or other. We used to hang out, and I am not like into that, but as a friend, I was like, fuck, let's go to the bar, man. Let's go have some fun. So it doesn't, like, that's not where I hang my hat on this shit. What I see,
but some people will die on that mountain in that battle.
There's a reason they're dying on that mountain, but they're too stupid to know why. And I think this is why I take people for a loop a little bit, because they will hear me say certain things on a direction and not realize that what I'm opposed to is not the opinion that X is okay, like homosexuality. I have no problem with that. I would never be able to be married. In fact, I don't think the government should be involved in marriage at all. You should all be able to, marry and fuck whatever you want. I don't care. So long as they're adults, I really don't care. So, but then what happens?
And they better make polyamorous marriage legal.
I don't care about that. Why should I? I mean,
yeah, dude.
It creates. I mean, you could say it creates some legal mud, but so what? Lawyers love mud. It means they make more fucking money. So make the mud. Who gives a shit? In fact, it shouldn't be the government's job to decide who can and cannot get married. I've always, polygamy, whatever you want, whatever. You know, I don't really care. Two consenting adults, I don't even give a fuck if you're related personally. In my own moralism, don't give a fuck. I don't like it, but I'll never do it. But you know what? I don't know. Maybe it's bad because you have a kid they get weirded. I don't know. It's not, like I said, I'm not going to die on that hill. I don't want the government to tell me what I can do in that regard.
Right. And the interesting thing is in the conversation I had with Elric, you know, about libertarianism and stuff, he's like, well, at the end of it, you know, his conclusion was, he's like, okay, socially on things, you fall into the sort of the leftist category. He's like, but politically, you are more on the libertarian side of things, because I never really identified with either party.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is what I was getting at, is I think what happens is you see a lot of identitarian things pop up on every side. Like the right likes to say the left are identitarians, and I'm like, yes, but you guys also have an issue with that too, because you're not, you don't recognize that some of these people have legitimate grievances. Like you said, chicks get dick pics. I know that, but then again, guys get their own share of that stuff. But it's different. Yeah,
it's different. I mean, you know, and some of that, like what I was trying to espouse in the video is, you know, as a women occultist, and I know I'm not the only one, and I'm not going to name names because we've had, you know,
I've seen it. I totally get it. I've seen it. I mean, dick pics are a thing. You know,
it's like I remember when I recorded the video with Orly for Become a Living God over the summer, and she was like, okay, after this video is posted, don't read any of the comments. Like, it's all going to be like incel stuff, you know, people, and because they don't take women occultists seriously.
Well,
and I read a few of the comments, and it was basically people more commenting on what we look like and what we were wearing versus what we actually had to say.
I totally get that. No, I agree. And or it goes, but it's also...
So that's what I have a problem with.
There's also a slight unfair advantage in that too. And when I say this, it's not like a critical thing. It's more like, it's just a thing that's different, okay?
Yeah.
Like as a female, I've noticed, you know, as a male, I have a harder time getting traction. But if I put a cute girl's picture up, my views go up exponentially. And it's not always men. There's a lot of women too. So there's also there's
I'm not going to name names, but I have noticed there are some people that that tactic has worked for them.
Yeah, because I mean, when I go into my YouTube analytics, you know, the majority of my viewers are like men in the 24 to 30 something category.
Right, and mine is probably not that different, ironically.
Yeah.
I do think that just like everything, like with video games, men are more likely to play most games. Is that because they're marketed to, or just because probably a little bit of both, if we're being honest? I think
I was a hot gamer chick.
Right. I mean, yeah, it happens. I mean, like my wife, she didn't turn on to certain games until like several years after we were married. Then she's like all about them. So it's like, you know, I think there's a piece of, everyone's got a point. Okay. And I think that the problem is though, and this is what I'm really trying to get at, is there, in my opinion, and I mean, it's unprovable because it's so blatantly big and bad that there's no way to be like, here's the proof, like here's the document that says it. But I think people who spend enough time really looking into what's going on in our civilization will see that there has been a concerted effort to create subversive change in our culture. Right. And it always rides at first, because it's effective. You find the things that are legitimately wrong with society. Intolerance is a problem. Bigotry is a problem. Sexism is a problem. So it will ride those issues, but then it will take them further, because you will have an army built up that are pissed off, rightfully so. As a 90s and 80s Gen X, you know, punk goth guy, you know, alternative guy, whatever, all those different, you know.
Oh, by the way, if you own combat boots, you're now a member of Antifa.
I guess. Meanwhile, it's always been both ways.
This is something I meant when the video where I was talking about combat boots, someone had made a comment. The only angry comment I got on that, they deleted it like 30 seconds later. But the one thing I gleaned from it was, yeah, your combat boot mention, you must be one of those leftist Antifa people stuff. So I'm like, oh, okay. Now the joke is, you know.
Well,
do you own combat boots? Congratulations, you're Antifa.
People generalize, and people do generalize. And I will say again, like, I'm being honest with you.
Old to smash windows and graffiti.
Don't say that. Come on, you're not. No, you can do. You're not old. Shut up. No, what I'm getting at is people create generalizations about one another. And I will, just a bone to pick with you is the first minutes of that video. The identification of white males as, now I can pick that bone because I grew up in a minority neighborhood,
Mhm.
And I can tell you, those behaviors are way worse. And it's
Right,
not
and what I clarify in the follow-up video is this is based on my
your personal experience. Yes,
my
and that's
personal experience, and it was coming from that.
and let's be
Now,
fair.
does that mean that everyone else is excluded?
No.
But 99% of it was coming from that.
And let's be fair, in the left-hand path community, and it's unfortunate, minorities don't get as involved. You might get some Hispanics, blacks are different. Certainly, I don't get many Asians, but I do get quite a few Indian people. Believe it. That's actually interesting to me. A lot of people from India come in here, which is cool as fuck because I love their culture. It's freaking cool.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. Like, there's definitely
There's more diversity in the left-hand path than I initially thought.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I actually do love about it is because in a lot of like my witchy groups, locally and stuff, it's always all women.
Well, it's kind of like forced diversity, I think, personally, in those other groups.
The fact that there are guys here, but it's sort of like I don't want the few incel twerps and general assholes to make the whole group look like that.
Yeah, and it's true, but there's also like when I have indulged in those witchy groups for a minute, I see a lot of insufferable virtue signaling and elitism and things that actually cuck people would be the right winger term for it, and you do see a lot of exodus of males from it because a lot of the times there's this perception that magic probably this might come from the Norse tradition because a lot of times women were the vulva, were the feminine magicians and stuff. So there's like this impulse that only women should do magic and men shouldn't touch it. And I think that happens.
Which is bullshit.
It is bullshit. It is. And I found that people who
I'll be the first to say.
people who properly balance the gender tend to do better in magic, right? People who are in touch with their feminine and their masculine do better, I think, personally. Mm-hmm. But no, I think what happens is, so this subversive movement has created armies of people who are either justifiably or unjustifiably, they feel targeted, victimized, or their way of life is threatened on some level. And that's because a lot of power manifests when someone feels that. In other words, one of the reasons why I oppose certain socialist ideas is because it creates what I would call power blocks. So when you have a public, fund for welfare or something, it's not that it's bad to give people money when they need it. That's not the issue ever. I'm not one of those people who says, "Oh, you should work for your money" or something like that. I'm not a dickhead like that. But what it does do is it creates a systemized reason for people to vote a certain way. So if you have candidate A say, "I'm going to lower your welfare," and candidate B says, "I'm going to raise it," well, those people who are inclined to vote that care about that, what are they going to do? Justifiably or unjustifiably, it creates a lever of power is what I'm getting at. And I don't want government to have that power. I don't, because when it has that power, it turns it into control over people who just want to be left the fuck alone. Like I don't want to tell people how to live. I want to be left alone. That's me. So
pretty much.
Yeah, and so what I think has happened in this country and the world is, the problem is a lot of people that I see in the comments, people going, Trumpers, stop that shit. Just like you should stop Bideners. Stop that. Cut it out.
Yeah.
Let's talk.
Yeah, because it's I see a lot of that kind of thing. As soon as you express any kind of opinion, it's like, "Oh, you're a lefty snowflake."
You get dehumanized.
No, I'm not a snowflake.
You get dehumanized.
Yes.
And
yes.
And every movement has to dehumanize the other, whether that's
right. And it's happening on both sides. So and everywhere in the middle. So and that's where I see the nuance in things. And I'm a big old nerd, so I like to research things, and I want to know. I'm not just going to take, especially even in the work that I do. Okay, well, someone says this herb is used for this. Mm-hmm. Well, I want to kind of corroborate that information. Well, where did this come from?
Mm-hmm. Like, where did you get that idea? Because if you go to another culture, they might say something completely different.
Right, or if one person is saying this herb is used for this, but there's no other evidentiary claims to it being used for that, then where's this coming from?
Yeah. And so in our society, we have seen the subversive element, whatever you want to call them, New World Order, don't call them Illuminati because that just makes it funny, globalism, whatever the fuck you want to label it, it is there. Okay, there's definitely a desire to unify the world under a global authoritarian regime. It was under Bush, it was under Clinton, and it was under all of these oligarchic people. They were always puppets for them. The reason you're seeing chaos right now is because the guy, whether you like him or not, and I can see why people don't, he's not part of them. He's part of a different faction of them. Like they're battling over. So it's a little different, and it's a little bit more complicated than it's ever been before. It's not two wings of the same bird. This is actually two different birds. And it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. I'm promising you that.
I don't disagree at all.
And so,
the moral of kind of what, in the follow-up video, what I was talking about is that, it just, we need to respect each other as a community and embrace our differences and stop eating each other from within.
Right, and stop trying to dehumanize and destroy the other person who's a little.
Right.
Now, again, there are existential differences that you can't rectify. Like I said earlier, if someone wanted to, what is it, the 14th Amendment, or I forget which one, the Emancipation, whatever. Let's return to slavery, a bunch of white supremacists say, I can't be your friend. Sorry, we can never be friends.
Exactly. You have to have boundaries, and that's a lot of what I was talking about, because in my personal space, my boundaries were, in a lot of cases, being violated. Which for a woman can be very different.
I'd see that. I would see that. Yeah, I think.
Like I had to change my, my business address to a P.O. box. I had to get a Google Voice phone number after someone texted me after a video I posted about it.
Yeah.
A complete stranger.
What I would suggest is, and this is just me, and maybe it won't work, maybe it will. I think that the majority of men hate that shit. The majority do.
Exactly. And I'm not saying all men are like this or all people. Because it's nuanced.
It's nuanced. I would appeal to them and be like, gentlemen, please, if you see this happening to me, please help me out with it. Because men, you have to give men, the machismo men, I guess we could say, the ones that sometimes get accused of toxic masculinity, and sometimes they are. They get accused of it, but they're very eager to protect, and it's not like they think inferiority is happening. They just see that's their identity. I am a man, I must protect. And a woman says, I must nurture. And there's nothing, that's not a given, it's just they exist, okay? And they should exist, they're fine.
And there's life experiences that I've had in, various things. Like, this was probably 20 years ago, but there was someone who was known for sexually assaulting unconscious women drunk at parties.
And
Did anyone ever unfriend them? I'm still 20 years later fighting against this. And I still remember I was at a party and this guy was there. I'm standing in a room full of people. He's basically like, I could fuck you if I want, and there's nothing you could do about it. No one
did anything.
Came to my defense.
Yeah.
No one said, dude, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. It's, that's another thing that is something else. There's a systematic weakness that has invaded the human spirit. And I see it like in Australia right now. Like Victoria, I mentioned that earlier to somebody. I don't know if I said it publicly or not, but I look at like Victoria, Australia, where their COVID cases are near zero, like compared to everywhere else in the world, and they have one of the most, for like a first world style country, they have some of the worst lockdowns ever. And I talk to people from there, and they're not happy, except for the ones that have been fed this thing that it's a wonderful collectivist idea that we all should, it's almost like watching a bunch of Nazis come together and say, yes, we must kill the Jews. It's almost like that. It's sick to me. I watch it and I go, I get it. People don't want to get sick from this, and I get it. You have your right to do what you want. But I see these people, their will to self automation, whatever. I can't think of the word.
Sorry, I just watched his sneeze.
Oh, was it a good one? I was looking over here at my light.
Yeah, that was a pretty powerful one.
Do you have COVID? Get the fuck off my stream. I don't want to catch it.
No.
Fucker.
And we all approach those things differently. Like, it was interesting because I went up to visit my brother and his family and stuff. And like the understanding that my 5-year-old niece had about it, but she wasn't scared of it. But she knows to take it seriously because my nephew is very immunocompromised.
Yeah, exactly.
So she's like, I know when I'm at preschool, I have to keep my mask on all the time because of him. But then my brother coughed at one time, and she's like, COVID cough.
As I got into that argument the other day with that person I respect very much, and it was a shame, I left it up just so people can see the things that were said, but not to... Like, if you know who it is, do not at all, please don't think negatively of this guy. He's a great guy. Or me.
I don't.
You might have missed it. But yeah, I mean, again, it's not meant like take a side on the fight of persons, but look at the issues and ask yourself, what the point is. Some people's priority is save life at any cost. And my argument was, well, you can prevent all forest fires by chopping down every tree. Okay, we can do that. We can also take more reasonable precautions. And so, but this is the thing. Everybody is being turned into wind-up soldiers for a cause that's not their own anymore. You have
like sometimes I have to remind myself. I'll be like, oh yeah, there's this pandemic thing going on. Oh yeah. Because it just seems like so. It's almost like fighting a foreign war.
Mm-hmm.
There's no bombs falling on my house, so.
It reminds me in a way almost of that Star Trek episode where they had a war with another planet, but they didn't shoot each other. They just did it simulated, and people had to walk into things and die.
Yeah.
A lot of people, like I know people in the health industry, and they say, well, I see it. And I go, okay, you're seeing it. I get it. I mean, especially you have a right. You're in a compromised position. You got a right to be pissed no matter what. Like, I don't care if we're doing it right or wrong. You got a reason. You can yell at anybody you want because you're on the front line taking the bullets, and we should be listening. Maybe not like your anecdotes are gospel, but we got to give you the hug and just be like, you get to, if you want to bitch and moan and say this guy's right and this guy's wrong, you please do. Please don't stop. But on the same time, like, I'm in New York. I don't know if your guys are going to get hit with it, but they're talking about locking us down again, the whole state. And it's just like, yeah, but it doesn't.
The thing is done pretty good. I mean, in Philly, especially for a large city, as far as our COVID cases go. And like, on one of the apps I have, it gives you like a daily, there's like, 100 new cases or something like that. Mm-hmm. But I don't know why, but somehow we've fared okay through the whole thing.
And this brings me. I'm kind of glad you brought it up because now I can talk about it and we can have an intelligent conversation about it instead of just me ranting. That makes it nice.
Yes.
It is like this is where I come up with the censorship thing because right now, like if you post on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, but especially the last two, you can get censored badly just for quoting the CDC's death probability statistic. And I saw this, like J.P. Sears, the guy who does Ultra Spiritual, one of my favorite like YouTube channels ever. And he had a video about it. And, I guess,
video on how to be intolerant.
I've seen it. I don't remember it, but I have seen it.
I was just like it was really funny. And also, like, what if vegans acted like
God, I love that one.
Something that
I love that. And you know why? Because as a keto guy, I started acting like a vegan guy, and I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna just embrace my inner vegan and just act like that. Be like, you should try keto.
I was a vegetarian for a long time, so I get it.
There's truth to it, but you know what? That applies to everything, right? That applies to stuff. But no, he's great. He's got a good sense of humor.
I'm gonna say fuck yeah. Because I was the vegan who did not act like a fucking vegan. I take personal offense to that, yo.
Well, I was going to say, to be fair to Flesh Priest, when we heard he was a vegan, we gave him way more shit than he ever gave for being a vegan. So, like, we totally, like, we're like, you mean you don't eat this meat or anything? Well, I'm a pescatarian. Why can't you eat meat? He's like, but I can't eat. Yeah, but why? we played a lot of dirty pool with you, brother. We had fun with you for that for like a week or two, but we were just teasing you though. We don't care.
No, I know.
But, it's one of those things like with the stuff with the lockdowns and COVID, and I mean the restrictions in Philly aren't too bad anymore. People are going, like I went downtown last weekend or something. I think people are out and about doing things. I mean they've got masks on and whatnot, and most stores are open now with varying levels of, some you do some are open to in-person shopping. Some have, if they're smaller stores, they might be like, okay, we can only allow X amount of people in at a time. Fair enough.
The thing, I think the point I'm getting at is
anywhere.
So the libertarian philosophy on authority being exercised is that authority is generally bad because it violates the non-aggression principle. And the non-aggression principle basically says if you don't have a good reason, you don't hurt people. And so like they apply that to things, and their threshold is pretty low. In other words, before they find it as an offense, it doesn't take much. And so what I'm getting at is it's like if we were in the middle of a and it is endemic now. It's not a pandemic anymore. It stopped being a pandemic a while ago. It's endemic now. It's like the flu. It's no different. And that's, how common it is. Yeah. In order for the revocation of civil liberties to be justified, where's the threshold?
Right. we saw similar things like, with the Patriot Act and stuff after 9/11.
Exactly. They went right past what I thought was rational, and I was a Republican at the time. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? What the hell's wrong with you? So no, that they've used this before, and they will always use this. They've created this situation intentionally to undermine American and global economic and civil structure. The countries where you see the most effective lockdowns, where they're doing it without a lot of pushback, they're going to be subsumed into that that globalist system. The ones that are pushing back are going to be opposed to it. You're going to have a paradigm shift in the next decade, where you're going to see like the U.S., maybe the U.K., probably Iceland, Russia, and yes, Russia, and there's some things going on people don't want to know if you're a Trump supporter, but that's irrelevant because they're actually all opposing an authoritarian regime of one type. Whether they want an authoritarian regime may or may not be true in their own countries individually. In America, Russia, maybe not. I'm not going to go there, but I will say that you're seeing these two systems butt heads, and one wants to control the world by hook or by crook, by murder and by everything. Just look at China and go, hey, they don't mind China. Like they're okay with that. I got a little problem there. I don't love that. But whatever. Let's not get into that either. Let's just say they want to subject the world to an authoritarian oligarchical rule, and both sides will eventually want that. The problem is people want perfection in a leader or a system.
That's impossible.
And it's impossible. And so sometimes we got to side with, so for example, people who are voting for Biden soon, they're voting for him because they know it's probably going to be Kamala who runs everything, and they like that because they oppose Trump so bad, they'd rather have that. So they're willing to take something they don't like for something they hate instead. And the same thing applies to the other side. So,
do I want the shit soup or the shit taco?
Right, yeah. Do you want to...
I'll go with the shit taco. I prefer tacos to soup.
I guess, right? I don't know. Soup goes down quicker, but tacos, I like the shell.
Yeah, the decisions we make in our modern society that we live in.
And that's usually, in the case of Dem versus Republican, what's going on. It's usually, that is what it is. The difference this time is you have a guy he's not the mastermind. Orange Man is not the mastermind. He is a paid actor, basically, who's got some ideas of his own, but he is working for the fraction of that oligarchical system that would prefer a Rome to a Moscow, if that makes sense. They would they want Excelsior. They don't want everyone in jumpsuits. They want everybody. Yes, they want us all, maybe not, I think goose-stepping is the wrong word because they're not racist in this typical sense. They want a controlled nationalistic system. And unfortunately, that we have to resist that too. And I'm telling you from channeling purposes that the universe I saw, the Trump side wins, and wins pretty big, and there's going to be like what happened
it doesn't take a crystal ball to figure that one out.
No, and Iceland, they're going to do like what Iceland did. When Iceland kicked out all the banks, you're going to see a version of that. I don't know exactly how, why, or what. You're going to see a few people rounded up that were in the deep state, quote unquote, while ignoring their own deep state operatives, of course. Trump's side's going to cheat on the election too. Don't kid yourself. If you're a Trump supporter, don't pretend like he's a good guy. He's not. He's the same as these other people. So what we have to do...
shit taco or shit soup.
Yeah, kind of. I prefer the shit soup this time. Personally, I prefer the orange soup over the taco, but that's not because, unfortunately, he's gotten the identitarians on the right behind him. And so here's the thing. When I watch him talk, every once in a while he will say something that some might call a dog whistle, but for the wrong reasons. They're not dog whistling to racist people at all. I've lived in New York. I've seen him my whole life. He's never had a problem with minorities in his life until he became president. Then
there were some things like with the Central Park 9 and some of the things back in the day more so.
But a lot of that could be
Park 5 rather.
A lot of that could be spun as controversy. So it's not like, hey, look how racist I am. It was like, remember what I said before about little r racism, that ignorance racism or whatever. I don't know. People change too. Let's be honest. There's a guy.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a guy, Derek Grayson. I forget. I think his name's Derek Grayson. He's running for something or whatever. I've watched him for years. He's a weird guy.
I'm not the same person I was in March. So
no, well, wow, yeah, you're right about that. For me too. Holy shit. so he's talking about, like, I have no doubt that Trump is a racist because he's 70 years old. Nobody is not racist who's over like 50 or 60. It's like pretty much, it's partially ingrained into their culture, and they have to work out of that to be different. It's like like by default.
Yeah, and I see that within my own family. Like, my parents turned into big old hippies once they retired. Mm-hmm. I'm like, where did this come from? You guys weren't hippies in the 60s.
It's weird how that happened. Yeah, well, so it's just like a default. Now, does that mean that it I don't know. Like, I don't want to, like, to me, some things, it's not worth the time to worry about if the end result is fine.
I mean, it's sort of like what I see, and one of the things I think you helped me see this was the video you did. You were talking about, and I think I talked with Elric too. I don't remember their names. The gun couple who pulled the guns on the protesters.
Yeah.
Now, one side tells you they pulled guns unwarrantedly on peaceful protesters, but then you also hear that their private property was broken into. They were threatened. I'm like, you know what? If someone was trying to break into my house and threatening me, and I had a gun,
I just hope you'd keep your finger off the trigger. I just hope you keep your finger off the trigger instead of that one lady who was like, "Get off of my property." Yeah, I didn't like that very much. But no, I feel the same way. What would any rational person do unless they're completely?
This isn't just property. I mean, like, okay, now this is my day job because I work from home now, and it's also my business. So if you're going to destroy my property, you're destroying my livelihood at this point.
Yeah, that's true.
My ability to make money and live.
Right. Well, I mean, that's like one of my favorite memes that I've seen, and people always expect me to react a certain way to that one when I've seen it. It's got a picture of black people with firearms and white people with firearms, and it says, if you got a problem with either one of these, you got a problem. Or if you've got a problem with one and not the other, you've got a problem.
Right.
It's like, no, I think that, so when we're talking about that, is everybody's got the right to defense and freedom of speech, and the more we not even allow that, right? Because it's a right, and a right is something that was fought and died for, not just by, the revolution. I mean, your very existence justifies you having those rights, because your ancestors fought, died, and murdered each other so that you have this existence. So by that token, you have rights that are fundamental. But anyway. No, I agree with you. And so, I mean, here we are in a situation where, so what do we have to do and why? And I've often said, well, I'm not here to save the world. I'm not here to moralize and save the world. I really don't give a fuck. People go fuck each other, get abortions, do every drug. I really don't care. That's not an issue that I give a fuck about. In fact, I think everything should make it all legal. Euthanasia legal, all that, make it legal, make everything legal. And if you do this correctly, if you let people have their freedom, but you create a system where people can't abuse each other with it, you're okay. Like that's where I like to sit. Like,
yeah, I mean, too much of politics has gotten into that. Well, if you're anti-abortion, well, then you're a Republican. If you're pro-choice, then you're a Democrat.
Football issues.
It's like you get kind of pushed into either camp when you might not necessarily fit into that camp.
Yeah.
So if those issues were taken off the table and depoliticized, where would people be?
Yeah, I think we'd be a lot better. But this is part of the subversion that they did a while ago. I've always been a liberal, like an actual liberal. I've always been that. And so I'd go, well, I really agree with this side on this part, because I think marriage should be legal and this and that, but I'm not okay with spending this much money on shit that and giving money away, and so I never fit on either side. I always had a problem because so what they do is they create these issues that to get issue A, you've got to also agree to issue B, and people the nuance is taken out. That's why you have a Coke and Pepsi environment, and
Dr. Pepper, man.
Dr. Pepper. Well, what was I? I don't know. I drank both. I don't know. I never really like.
I do too. If Pepsi's available, I'll drink Pepsi. If Coke's available, I'll drink Coke.
I'm the same way.
Care.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I can't pick one. I think I don't know. Like when I go to those machines with everything in them, I think I've been kind of I like Barks. Like for root beer, I got a choice. I got a choice in root beer for sure. Barks is my guy. But yeah. So anyway, I think it's gonna be. So my prediction is this simple. Orange Man's going to win, for better or for worse, and you can tell because they're fighting a retreating fight and they're not fighting a good fight. They're doing as much damage to the system and the community as they can on the way out, creating as much chaos so that there's an old saying, a bad leader is better than no leader at all. And they're trying to create a situation where people don't want that. It might as well be no leader. They're trying
I mean, it's I was thinking about this the other day, and like it was like, you know what? COVID is not the worst thing that's happened this year in my life and the lives of people around me. There's been far fucking worse things happening in people's lives that have nothing to do with COVID.
Yeah, I would agree. It's not that it's nothing. It's not that it's nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
If people tell me like,
it is something, because it's one of my fun. Now I'm calling it a former hobby because I'm completely over it. Sorry, my necklace just fell off. Is that I have it tied really well. Boobs catch things though, so it's all good.
I wish I had some. Sometimes it would be. Don't get your hopes up, Desmond. I saw that look.
But one of the things, hobby-wise that I did, on my own, just because of things that I'm interested in, is, I spent the past 20 years researching, the history of pandemics and epidemiology and diseases and how those things work. So when COVID came around, I was like, yeah, this is something that's aerosol, it's airborne, this is what, the history of that tells us.
Yeah. I remember when it came out, I was one of the first people. I wasn't paranoid or scared, but I was doing like the Paul Revere thing, saying, hey, this is going to be a thing, guys. Get your toilet paper, get your food, because it's going to be a thing.
I started seeing that maybe about February, but also because I worked at a university, I was starting to see like, okay, hey, we're advising you not to go to, or if you have people coming in from these countries, they can't.
And I was accused.
Canceling events.
I was accused by people that are currently leaning left that I was being hyperbolic at the time. I'm like, I wasn't. I was just telling you, it looks like some shit's coming. Get your shit together, because it really looks that way.
Like I was starting the slow stockpile through all of February.
I was accused of being paranoid, hyperbolic. I had this one guy that I don't really talk to anymore because I got sick of seeing his wall. It was very judgmental about people, and I try not to do that. I do it, but I try not to. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, we all are judgmental at times. I'm not perfect. I'll be the first person to admit I am far from perfect. I try to, at least when I fuck up, I'm like, okay, I'm going to learn from this experience.
Yes. See, exactly. Like, how can we find... Well, anyway, so he had come to me like, well, all you got to do is just wash your hands and maybe wear a mask. It won't be a big deal. We don't have... You're being... Because Trump's doing it. Trump's the one causing the pandemic.
Yeah, so many people I knew, again, a lot were on the left. They're like, it's just the flu. There's nothing to worry about. Everyone's overreacting.
And then what happened 3 months later? Oh my God, the world's coming to an end. Trump should have done more. He should have done... Oh my God, blah, blah, blah. It's like, you can tell when people are propagandized and brainwashed. When they flip-flop in extremes that way, that's one way. When they defend things that are like that, like when they become so attached to it that it hurts them to consider maybe they were wrong. So like, I'll admit, like, was I personally predicting more deaths? Personally, yes, but I wasn't scared of it, and I did that channeling with Marbus for that reason. I was like, tell me what's going to happen. And you know what he showed me more of, more important to him than the deaths? He's like, yeah, some people are going to die, some are going to live. I say those words specifically. The part he left on was the control that's going to result. And I saw like 9/11 style imagery. I saw people having riots and people lined up, people getting forced to take shots. I saw all of this shit coming down. And I'm like, well, if it's killing like 10 or 20% of the population, I get it. That I could see. That's kind of justified. As a libertarian, I'd say, if you're killing that many people, yeah, we could make certainly at least, like curfews and shit, whatever it takes, like I didn't know what, but I could understand it as a libertarian. It's like, it doesn't offend me that way. But then when it's like less than 1% on average, and the elderly, it's like 4% or something, I'm like,
Yeah, my only concern is that, my father, has a lot of health issues that if he got it, he most likely would die, as well with my nephew, who's going to be 3 in January. So, that for me was more of a concern.
Yeah. Well, everyone's trying to use it for a power grab now. Everybody. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you agree with. They're all using it for one. And this is what I say. Whenever there's like an issue, they turn it into a power lever, and you got to watch out. And you know, I'm reading the comments, and it's like people talking about Homeland 20 or like other stuff, and they're worried about white supremacy and shit. Look up Agenda 21. Look up Agenda 30, Agenda 40, Agenda 50. Look it up. Look up Plandopolis. This is not a game, guys. This is not just conspiracy theory. This is.
And I've looked at all these stuff. I mean, that's the thing. Like, sometimes I'll complain about conspiracy theories, but I do actually look into them and, you know, kind of see what's going on.
Yeah. And Flesh Priest is letting me know he's going to go in a minute. So let's. So you know what I want to do, Jen? Let's do this. I got another friend who's he's actually been on a few times. I think like a 3-way panel talking about these issues from the 3. I wouldn't even call them extremes. I think that we agree and disagree, and we respect each other in different ways, and it's cool. So it's okay. I think it would be fun. I think it might be fun to invite you on for that conversation, because where we get it wrong, you get to talk about it with respect, and where we think, you know, we can all just come at it with a 3-way of. So he's a traditional, so like he's like an FDR socialist, like he believes in that kind of socialism. Whereas I'm a libertarian. I'm like, no, none of that shit's okay with me, motherfucker. You know. Like, I'm
a little bit of everything-atarian.
I like that. And look, some of those words, they kill us, right? You know, when I define libertarianism, I just go, you know, if you want to understand libertarianism, look up Luciferianism, and you're almost at the same thing. It's maximum liberty, minimal intervention, and you try not to hurt each other. It's that simple.
I mean, it's you know, as the community and stuff like that, you know, we've just really got to come together and not eat each other from within.
It would help. It would be a good start, and they really push those buttons, because, like I say to my friend all the time, once upon a time, we could disagree about a lot of these issues and not come to blows, but it's become existential because we've all become identitarian.
Yeah, and, you know, it's one of those things, like, I honestly, like, I mean, I have criticisms of things, but, like, when it comes to actually being offended by something, there's very little that actually offends me. I'll be like, okay, we can have an intelligent discourse
it could be because you're a Gen X. It could be because you're.
You know, they're the basic things of like, don't kill my cats, don't abuse children.
Right.
You know, the fundamental things that, you know, most of us can, you know, be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think it could be partially because you're a Gen X kid like me a little bit, and we're kind of used to that, like, disagreement and being okay with it. Like, maybe we're used
whatever.
maybe we're used to the conflict, maybe. I don't know. But it hurts me in my soul, because I want to do this. I want to do what you and I are doing. Even if we do have to talk politics, can we do it like this? Or can we just talk magic? Can we find our common ground and then agree to support that? Do we have to destroy each other all the time? And it's sickened me a lot, because I feel like I have to silence it, or else I face the cancel culture mob, because like you said,
cancel culture is bullshit, because, you know, we would have empty museums, empty libraries, and no music to listen to, because, you know what? Sometimes epic shitlords create awesome shit.
Yeah, and let's be honest, I'd rather go to a Hitler museum and go, what a piece of shit, than go, who? And then it happens over again. I mean,
exactly. You know, if you erase it, you have no record of it.
Exactly, and there's got to be a way to do it, and so we just have to come to terms with that. They've subverted the best intentions of people like us, who would have said, I want tolerance and freedom and this stuff, and then said, yeah, but you know, if it didn't affect us, but it got everybody else, because the average person's an idiot. I hate to say it, they're just dumb, and, you know, and it turns into a war instead of something else, and that's the dark times we're in. It just is.
Yeah.
You know, and the good news is, I think Gen Z sees that, and they see this hysteria, and some of them may be scarred, like, you know, a lot of millennial kids were by 9/11, and so they've got a different way of thinking than us. But I think a lot of Gen Z kids get it, and they're able to be tolerant of each other. Like, I see my kid and their friends, you know, they don't beat each other up over these things as much. I'm not saying it never happens. It doesn't. I don't see it as much. So I don't know. I hope it works out, and I hope the virtue signaling stops, and I hope that people.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things. It's like, and it's something I try to be cognizant of not doing, where it's like, oh, I did this and I did that, and I support this and I support that, and oh, look at me, I'm so wonderful because I do this thing, and I'm like, you know what? I do those things. I just don't, you know, I don't want my name in headlines about it, or the you know, ticker thing, you know.
Especially as professionals. right?
Yeah.
Like as professionals, like that's another reason I hesitate. That's why Lucifer called me a bit of a sellout, because I'm like, you know where your heart sits, Thorne. You know what you wanna say. You know that you wanna support freedom and freedom of thought more than anything, and you don't do that because you're afraid you're gonna offend. And like you said, not that you said, but I think you'd agree that one of the draws of the left hand is how diverse in thinking and in personality and character and people.
And I love that.
Yeah. We can have this conversation
even
here.
For me, as someone who considers themselves to be pretty open-minded, I've become even more open-minded.
Let's put it this way. How bad would I be getting dogpiled in the witch community talking about what we're talking about, saying what I'm saying? How bad would I be dogpiled, would you say? 80%?
Probably, yeah.
You won't be dogpiled here, even with what you're thinking. You won't be.
Yeah.
And if they do, let me know. I'll kick them in the balls. So.
I appreciate that, because that's the thing, and the reason I posted the angry video is sometimes, as I was saying to a friend of mine, I was like, using cuteness as a way to subvert the message. You know,
it's true.
Like,
it's
listen
true.
to a cute girl telling you not to be a dick.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I don't know. I've always been of the mind, like, do we have to tell people? Like, if you got to tell people that, it's too late. Like, who needs that message? Like, if you need that message, you're not getting. That's why it's like, I don't know. That's why I don't make that message to me, because it's like, you know how I fix it? Like, I treat it. I have a saying, like, I'm very tolerant, but rabid dogs get shot, and it's
right. I mean, it's for me. It was the issue that was encroaching upon my personal life and my personal space, and that was what I was putting the kibosh on.
Especially if it's coming from a personal space. Especially.
Yeah, and it's sort of like, I don't need that.
Mm-hmm. Especially if you're being victimized.
If it's in a live stream chat, you're being a douche canoe, I can just, block you or mute you or whatever.
Yeah.
If it's in a Facebook group or whatever, same thing,
But the powers that be want to have the ability to make us all upset at one another, so we censor each other, and that's got to stop.
Yeah.
It's got to stop.
Yeah, I don't think we should censor each other at all, but it's using common sense, which I think someone commented that common sense is not that common.
It's not.
True.
Yeah.
But just having a modicum of respect for each other in the community and stuff.
Can we just all channel George Carlin for a minute, the mighty great George Carlin, and just bring him back for like 1 week? Can we just bring him back for 1 week and just have him run a rampage across this earth? Just fucking.
We did have some great comedians like growing up and coming up in our generation.
I was a Richard Pryor
that would not
growing
be able to get away with anything today.
No, they couldn't. I mean, like I would stop whatever I'm doing and watch Carlin and Richard Pryor. Like whenever they came on, I would watch them like instantly. And you're not even allowed to say that you like Cosby anymore, because if you say that, they're like, oh, so you're okay with women getting roofied? No, but he was a funny motherfucker. But.
Yeah. I mean, that's again that sort of thing. It's like, okay, bad people can sometimes make good things, and it's you kind of have to go.
They're neo-puritanicals today. That's what they are. They're the same people that were rubbing their pearls back in the olden days, going, "You can't talk about that." Ooh, they're doing the same thing today. It's the same people. They just changed what they're upset about. It's the same.
Like I think I was saying in an old video I made. I'm like, I hate Ted Nugent and how he is and stuff. But you know what? The damn Yankees had a few good songs back in the day.
And Ted Nugent doesn't represent all of those people who like guns either. That's the thing. Yeah. So.
Hey guys.
All right, brother. We're gonna call it.
Sorry
anyway.
to interrupt. I gotta fucking bow out. My brain is shutting off. I gotta go get some rest.
No, good on you, brother. No. I think we're gonna end the stream here. So, Jen, where can they find you and your conflicting, beautiful ideas that are so controversial and different and the same and wonderful? And where can we find your stuff too?
My YouTube channel is linked to this. It's Jennifer Vatsa. My website is belladonnasbotanicals.com, and it's after midnight, so I'm doing it's a local virtual event, the Darksome Every Day is Halloween.
Cool.
Our virtual market, so it's 20% off. There's a code for it. It's Darksomeween. I'll put it in chat then after we're done. So
yeah, buy her shit.
That's all weekend through Sunday.
Ed Romanov is saying buy her shit. We agree. Buy her shit.
Buy
all the shit. And buy my crap too. Yeah, buy my crap too. And Nikki's gone, but she's got her own YouTube channel, but we wanted to promote that, but I forgot. I'm an idiot. Well, anyway, guys,
channel is great.
If you like what I'm doing, I guess, if you're still here and haven't thumbed me down already, which is fine because that still puts me ahead in the algorithm, so that's great. if you're still here, please give us a thumbs up and give us a subscribe and a like and all that good shit. If you want to support my work personally, you kind of missed your chance to super chat me, but you can always support me by going to the links in the description. I've got all my books, which I think are awesome. You can also really help me if you share all this stuff, because I'm starting to feel like we've got a lot of the same people every week. So let's start. Let's share this with people we think would be interested and get them to join us, and we'll make this bigger.
Join the dark side.
Yes, join us. We have really good cookies and brownies here, and we will put substances in them if you ask. I mean, no, we won't. That would be wrong, right, Jen? We don't do that.
Yes.
It's very naughty. No, we have good brownies here. We'll just say that. They're very well cursed with the darkest, evilest chocolate you could ever imagine. So, all right, guys.
My shirt says spells and hexes, so...
We should call this, like, we should do that. Like, on the curse is right. Yeah, we should do that.
Oh, I love that.
All right, Jen. All right, guys. So thank you very much.
Take
We'll
care.
see you definitely next week, maybe twice. We may do a Thursday and a Friday. No promises.
Cool.
Until then, mind the shadows.
Take it easy, everybody.
Click the button. Everyone is gone.